Hi, my name's McCrystal, and this is The New Mind. Today's guest is a real honest privilege for me to have today. Like, this is a career highlight. I've already warned her that she might be cringing whilst I introduce her, but it really is. I have Carly Ashdown with me today, who is a beautiful artist, and the links to her social media will be posted alongside YouTube, Spotify, Apple. So you can check her out and you'll know what I mean as soon as you see the work. But this goes a bit deeper, as I'm sure you're all expecting, than just the art. Carly's story is multi-layered, multifaceted, and her brain, her mind, the way she thinks is so interesting to me, and I know to the rest of you. Now, she did tell me I was going to say something to introduce her, but I'm actually going to let her say it herself because I've forgotten what it was. So, welcome, Carly.
Thank you so
What was
much.
the thing that you wanted me to say? I told you I'd forget it.
It's fine. It's fine. And that as an artist, my fundamental job is, or just as a human being, actually, which is expressed through art at this time,
Yeah.
is to express the deeply felt but unnameable experience of being
That
alive.
was it. I knew I wasn't going to remember it. It's so profoundly beautiful, and yet my brain was focusing so much on it that it filtered it out.
Don't worry, all the time, the same.
And that is really the thing that drew me in.
Mm,
Even before you said that line to me, the work that I've seen on your Instagram predominantly is I can't even put it into words, but there's so much in it. Um and it is so captivating, and that's not even in real life. That's
mm,
just through the screen of a phone. So
right.
it tells you the power of the work.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I would like to just say before we get going though, because it's wonderful to be invited on a podcast. It's great for, getting yourself out there, getting yourself known. It's great for the brand. So that's perfect. But when you invited me to be on this podcast, it was like, yes. And I want
Oh,
to kind of briefly explain why. When I'm in my studio painting and you're interviewing all different walks of life with all different life experiences. And as I'm listening, I'm seeing myself in their story. And
mm,
that's a powerful thing because look, we might understand that many things about life. We might understand that time isn't really what we think it is. It's based on how fast you're traveling and what you're doing. In fact, time doesn't exist at all, where it's just one moment happening right now. We might know that actually, as I hold this sofa, it's solid, but there's actually more space than there is matter.
yeah.
Like we might know that. We understand that. Let's face it, we're probably all one consciousness experiencing ourselves subjectively.
Yes.
That's all good to know.
Mm,
Fantastic. But that doesn't help the person with depression, anxiety, OCD, compulsive disorders, the person that just feels isolated and they don't know why, or lost and they don't know why.
yeah.
What's fundamentally important is human connection. And when you can see yourself in someone else's story, that's powerful. And then it leads to the next question is, well, if I can see myself in someone else's story, maybe there's a fundamental experience of being human that we all share.
Yes. Yes.
And you facilitate that.
Oh, thank you.
You
Thank
do.
you.
And so when you invited me on, I was like, yes, yeah.
Well, when you said yes, I was inside doing that massive, like, how exciting is this? Because I think everything you've just said
Mm,
about the podcast is how I feel about your work. I couldn't find the words, but you've just basically
yeah.
reflected everything that I feel about your work.
But we're all part of the same system in truth.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
just, it's like a diamond. You've got that angle and I've got that angle. We're
Yeah.
all interconnected. It's like having a massive candle in the middle of the room and you taking your little candle and lighting it and I take
Yeah.
mine. We're all coming off the same system. We
We
just don't.
are.
And the problem is a lot of us know a lot.
Yeah.
We know a lot, but it doesn't help. Like I said earlier, it's the booby prize.
Yeah.
Knowing can create more of a sense of separation and
Mm.
isolation, and it's just me on my own living this life. You can be surrounded by people, you can have an amazing job, all of those things, but deep down something's missing.
Yeah.
And it's such a core experience
Yeah, it
that for
is.
me it's always been about getting to the bottom of that. What is
Yeah.
that? and training myself and working with people, but also like physician heal thyself,
Yes.
is
Yes.
what it's been about. And
Yeah.
as you know, I came into the world in such a traumatic way. I was bound to take that path. So yeah,
Well, I mean, you have not only a beautiful way with paint, but you have a beautiful way with words,
thank you.
and your mind is just like the most. You mentioned the diamond there with the many facets. Like, already today, as we've been talking, I've seen so many different facets
Mm,
of your mind and so many different angles. And I completely agree with everything you've said. There was a little story, I think it's a Chinese proverb. Someone told me this story and it's never left me, but I am paraphrasing it because I don't remember it word for word, about love.
mm,
And about love is like the candle light. We all have the candle inside our heart and we light each other's hearts up.
mm.
And actually, that doesn't have to be just that one person that fills your heart with love. And we have this journey of trying to find that one person or that one
Mm.
thing. And yet, you and I really barely know each other, but the love that I feel for you
Likewise.
already, yeah.
Yeah,
And it's that exactly what you were saying. We're lighting each other's candle. It's the same source,
it is.
and we're all connected. And that's what this podcast was always supposed to be about.
Ramdas said we're
Oh,
all
Ramdas,
round. Well,
I love him.
he said we're all walking each other home.
Yes, I love that. I mean, for
You
those
know.
that don't, I think I've referenced Ramdas previously in a couple of the podcasts, but he did it's on Audible, a collection of talks that he's done.
Mm.
You probably heard it. I think it's called Becoming Nobody
I think yeah, yeah.
or something like that.
Mm.
I might be
Look,
getting that wrong. So some of it is a bit much for some people, actually, the way he
yes, it's quite
thinks.
yeah.
He goes into quite a lot of interesting areas
He's
of
done a lot of
thinking.
stuff though, hasn't he? He's
He's
had
done
a
a
lot.
lot of
Yeah, he had a
stuff.
life.
He did.
Yeah.
He had a massive life, and one of the things that you're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about today, is the whole death theory. He embraced death,
Got to
and it's from
really
him
live.
that I did,
Mm.
actually, listening to some of what he was saying. I was like, yeah, because I already wasn't afraid of death, but he enabled me to understand why.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's what we will, you can see already
I
from the brief introduction that we've just gone around the houses and into the hard
like
stuff.
to get in there.
Yeah,
There's
why
no
not?
messing. How's the weather?
Yeah,
No, not interested.
yeah.
No one
Let's
else is really interested in that conversation either. Just the way.
No, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right, actually. We spend a lot of time doing the small stuff when we could
Mm.
just get to the interesting stuff, which is exactly what we just did.
The amount of friends I've made in the lift going up to my studio, you can
Wow, yeah.
imagine, because I'll just state the obvious of what's going on or
Yeah.
something, you know.
And you
Yeah,
do. What you see is what you get with Carly.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, which I like.
Thank you.
I respect as well. And immediately when I saw you at the door today, I was just like, oh, there she
I
is.
have been accused of being as subtle as a brick to the face, though.
Which is good in my book.
And my friend, oh my goodness, she calls me. You'll have to YouTube it. She calls me a honey badger because
Mm.
honey badger don't give a like just in there all over it. And the honey badgers, they'll take like these venomous snakes and they'll just eat them. Like they're then like they just don't. I mean, we'll talk further, but yeah,
Wow.
I'm just like you live once, just
Just eat the snake.
I mean,
I mean,
that's
take that how you will.
yeah.
That was not meant the way it sounded.
Yeah.
But
We can
let's
talk about anything.
anything that happens to come up. We've covered many stuff already, but I think what you said there about the way you entered this
Mm,
planet is probably where we should start, at the
okay.
very beginning. So for those that don't know anything about you, tell us how you got here, the journey
How
of
I
birth.
arrived on planet
Yes.
Earth. Um, so my understanding, speaking to my parents, primarily my mother, is that I was overdue and I stopped kicking. And they went to the hospital and they had no senior staff available. It was a complete muck up, basically.
Mm.
And I was in that time dying inside, just dying. And then my mum arrived at 6 in the evening, and it took them till midnight to do the tests. They put the thing on the brain of the baby, and they were like, "Oh my god, we've got to get her out. She's going to die."
Oh my gosh.
So they just didn't have enough staff on, so they left me. And my mum was like, "You've got to do something." So she felt it most when she stepped in, and that's sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was born, had to have loads of blood transfusions, but it left me with cerebral palsy because
Yes.
I had a stroke in the womb.
Yeah.
Apparently, the placenta had been rotting or something from like
Wow.
3 months,
Wow.
and they just didn't catch it.
Oh
So,
gosh.
yeah, I was born with cerebral palsy, and I do think we know so much more. And I know you've had guests on here that have talked about this much more deeply.
Yeah.
That the birthing process, is a trauma.
Yes.
Just normal birth.
Yeah.
I've got my own son.
Yeah.
It's even if it goes smoothly like it did with him,
Yeah.
it's a trauma.
It is a
But
trauma.
especially when you do genuinely meet with death.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So I was a very anxious person. Had lots of anxiety. Went to a special needs school. I mean, my parents, I think they spent a few years trying to prove there was a disability, which is a horrible position for
Gosh.
them. Yeah, to
And I
be
mean,
in.
you're, if you don't mind me saying, you're 44.
Yeah,
So we're going back 30
I think I
years.
am. Yeah,
Yeah, I
41.
think I am. I think I'm 40. I remember asking you earlier, you were
Yeah,
like, I really had to think
yeah.
about
I think
that.
I'm 44. Yeah, yeah.
Around that ballpark figure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then comes a stage where you just let it go.
It doesn't actually matter. You're right. You get to a certain age, and who cares? But it just shows that it wasn't that long ago that they were having to prove that you were disabled
No,
enough.
yeah, or at all. They just weren't sure. And I think, I mean, if you look at attachment theory and you've got the different attachment styles, I mean, I think my attachment style is ambivalent
Yeah,
attachment style.
yeah,
But even then, if you look at strange situation test, you've got mother that leaves the room, comes back in, and the child is unconsolable.
yes.
That's I, I'd still be crying with my mum there. There would be cry. I mean, as a baby, I cried non-stop. And I can
Wow,
remember being in the cot a few, like 3 or 4 months old.
wow.
I can remember that far back. And the reason why I can remember that far back is because I got woken up early. When you are that close to death, you don't slowly make your way into the world,
Wow, yeah, of course. Yeah.
you know.
You were like, bang,
Bang,
you're here.
I'm here.
It's almost like there's like some wiser, older energy just goes, right, we're needed here. Zoom.
In. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it was like. And it was really hard for my mum because she had no mother and no father. Her father
Oh.
had died when she was 7 and they were very close.
Oh, wow.
And back then, for her, when she walked into the room, whoever was still alive was meant the other one was dead. And she never got any support, anything.
Do you know, such a fundamental age, you'll have heard me reference that prefrontal cortex 7.
Yeah,
That's such an
that
important
trauma,
age.
I can feel it in me because it
You
gets
will do.
gets
You will
passed
do.
down,
Yeah.
the loss, and
Yeah.
then that can potentially close someone down if you don't deal with it. So,
Of course it does.
exactly. So for her, she had she had this her own trauma. You're dealing with the 80s, so father is at work, he is the breadwinner, he's not there, and he's a traditional father. I don't know if he changed nappies once, possibly. And then she's got me and I'm crying nonstop,
Yeah.
and so that.
Did you watch Time, which was the Jimmy McGovern?
No.
You must watch Time. You must watch Time. It's about last year they did it was Sean Bean and
Oh,
Stephen
like Sean
Graham.
Bean.
Oh my God. The original one I would
Mm,
watch again. It's phenomenal. They did the female prison version.
okay.
And without
Okay.
going into it, because some people may not have watched it, there is a storyline of a woman with a baby that never stops crying. So it's
Oh, I'm gonna
worth,
watch it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because that's an indicator. Like nowadays, like we did with Rivers, even though he had a perfectly fine birth, we took him to a cranial cerebral.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like just the mere arriving here. No one, you don't arrive here and get a welcome card.
No.
You arrive and you fit into whatever dynamic you find
Yeah, yeah,
yourself
yeah, yeah.
in.
And that in itself, like for you, was a massive trauma.
Massive trauma coming into the world, and then I went to a special needs school eventually, which was just very institutionalized,
Yes, I know they were
incredibly
then.
so, very
Yeah.
institutionalized. And
Was there abuse within that?
I think not really physical, but more. See, children don't pick up on the explicit communication; they
No.
pick up on the implicit.
Yes, they do.
You can tell your child that you love them, but if you aren't being with them, and that, that's where they pick up the love,
You're right.
is that. So yeah, there wasn't obvious. I mean, I got locked in the toilet a few times, and things like that, and
On
they
purpose?
yeah, they didn't. I think I'd had like some medicine I was bringing in, and the bottle kept leaking. So my mum said, just tell them they're not tightening the bottle enough. So I mentioned it, and they just threw me in the toilet. They were like, "You're so rude." They just threw me in the toilet. So there was lots of stuff like that that went on.
That's definitely abuse, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, I just guess, yeah, it is. When I look at
If
it,
you think of someone doing that to your
oh, I'd
child,
go nuts.
correct.
Yeah,
It's definitely abuse.
yeah, it is, isn't it?
Mm.
But there was so much in the reason why I didn't notice it is because there was so much in the implicit.
Yes.
We were doing you a favor looking after you.
Oh my
You're not
gosh.
going to be or do anything. Within that, there was one or two good teachers. Don't get me wrong.
Of course.
The thing they did very well was they did physio. So you were constantly having physio,
Yeah.
but it meant your education fell behind.
Because that's what they heavily focused on then,
Back
wasn't
then,
it?
because you
Yeah.
weren't going to do anything.
Yeah.
So,
What's
but
the point?
what's the point, right? Anyway, eventually, my parents, who were really easygoing about my education, they said, they came in, they had a meeting with the headmistress, and they said, look, she's falling really behind. And I think I was about 9 years old, and, I'd been in this school since 3, and they said, could we get her into the local state school just one day a week? And which did happen. But they said to my mum and dad, the headmistresses, is, I don't know why you're so concerned about your daughter's education. Lots of normal children don't get an education.
Oh my goodness. So what how did that affect your mum? Like basically because she wants the best for her child like all
Mm.
parents do, but she's been told, I wouldn't bother worrying about it.
My parents were phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, and specifically, in fairness, my dad, he just absolutely, my mum would just, she's just there. She's a kind of more of a spiritual person, and but she's not, she's there at the right moments, but she's not directive in that way. Whereas my dad
Yes.
is more so.
Yes.
And he's just been whereas my mum, if I was trying to get down some steps as a child, she would deliberately walk ahead of me to make me do it myself. My dad, he'd be holding my hand, and if he felt the slightest sense of me falling, I'd be dangling in the air before I'd had a chance to fall, because
Yeah.
so it was like that with them.
Yeah.
So in a way, I don't quite know how my mum took it. I
Yes.
just know what they did next which was to get me into that state school.
Yes. To
So
so
the
s
actions were,
so she was very much about that swift choices.
yeah,
This is what we've gotta do.
yeah.
Quite logical in her thinking in
Yeah,
that sense.
and it was more led by my father, I'd say,
Right.
really. He
Right.
he was committed to understanding, I think, unconsciously at least, that there was more to me than what they were suggesting.
Which thank goodness.
Oh, there's more, yeah, yeah, exactly. And you know, this is when one starts to develop the story. So I think for me, I went into a space of, and it would have happened slowly over years, this realization of not being let in, that I was different. But actually, what I realized in later life wasn't just that I was trying to get in of something I'd not, is is that I was never part of in the first place.
Yeah.
That I was different. Because
Yeah.
this is 80s with the disability.
Yes.
You're gonna get stared at in the street. Like,
Yeah.
it's a different world. We're isolated off. You don't go to local states. You're not into it's there is so much work to do now, but compared to then,
Yeah.
so that it wasn't just school, it was everywhere.
You're right, and actually there was a period of time, I think it was early 2000s, maybe late 90s, where there was a lot of disability rights marches,
Mm,
and I remember seeing images of people that were double amputees being dragged along the street, their
yeah.
stumps being dragged along the street, and the police officers just not caring.
No, no. That was the beginning of a movement,
Yeah, it
really.
was. Yeah, I remember seeing those images and being so,
Incredible.
yeah, like my
What?
heart was
Yeah.
just aching for these people that were fighting to be treated
Just a bit of respect.
fairly.
Just some, yeah,
It's not much
fairly.
to ask
It's
for.
it's not a lot. And I remember when I went to the junior school, I really struggled because I just had no. a lot of the children at the school I went to were severely disabled.
Yeah.
I actually went back in my teens, late teens, and I looked around and they apologized. The minute they heard the era that I'd been there,
Yeah.
it's a whole different setup there now.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they apologized. They didn't even need to know anything. They just apologized
Oh my goodness.
profusely, and it was a
Wow.
nicer environment
Yeah.
and all of that. But when I went to the junior school, so we develop stories about ourselves based on our experiences. So
Yeah.
I've already got the fight to be let in. That's now become part of my lens through which I'm viewing the world.
Absolutely.
Is this fight to be let in? And then I remember standing in the meeting with the head teacher, with the teacher from the school that had brought me across, because there was like the special needs school and the state school, and there was like a massive park area between, and she just took me across. And I was meant to go into what would have been called the fourth year then.
Yeah.
So you would have been 9, like 10, like
Yes.
10, 11.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to put you in the first year because you're so behind. He's doing me a favor, really. I was in that moment,
The realization.
it became about needing to catch up.
Yeah.
I'm going to be behind. I'm going to
Wow.
spend my whole
Yes.
life behind.
Yes.
And that's the other thought system that kicked off.
That's so profound. So one, I've got a fight to get in
Yeah,
the first
in the
place.
first place,
And two, when I do get in, I'm always going to be behind.
always going to be behind. Yeah,
And that primarily because of the system at the time really only focused on, well, we need the physio, not,
yeah.
these people that have
You're not
got.
going to achieve anything. You're not going to do anything. I think one of my teachers, actually, in fairness, at that school said, "I reckon I'll see your name in lights one day."
And
To
that
be
sometimes
fair,
that really well, you've just mentioned it now.
mm,
It really is a fuel source.
yeah,
Just that one person saying something
yeah,
like that can be life changing. It changes the
it
course.
changes everything. But the thing is I spent, I'm growing up feeling separate, and I'm also having lots of operations. I've been in
Mm,
hip spikers where it's like plasters from here right down to the floor, and your legs are like that with,
yeah.
and you're in them for 6 weeks. And I've been
Yes.
in them since I was a baby. And the thing is, you go to the doctors, and all these decisions are being made about you,
Yes.
and suddenly you find yourself in a hip spiker and you're in hospital, and it's like because your parents are just trying to do their best, really.
You're so
It
out
did
of
nothing.
control.
It didn't. It's so out of control.
And actually, did you ever have to have bones broken that weren't necessary?
I had bits of bones taken out to be put in the other hip, and it actually made that hip worse and did
Worse.
nothing for the hip that was,
I've heard these
yeah,
stories from quite a few people with CP.
experimenting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were experimenting. You're right. Um, and I've heard about the doctors that were making decisions
Mm,
with really very little parental involvement. This is what we're going to do.
that's how it was. This is what we're going to do. I
Yeah.
remember the
So
conversations.
now the other lens is, are you in control of your own life? I've
No,
got to fight to get in. I've got to
mind you,
catch
bearing
up.
in mind, control is an illusion anyway.
Of course it is.
But within that,
If you
that
feel like you've got no
yeah,
control.
there's levels of it. There's a acceptance of the joy of having no control, and then
Yeah.
there's a, oh my god, I've really got no control in my.
Yes.
There's levels.
Like people are taking choices out of my hand.
Yeah, and you don't really realize it's happening as a child. You don't really have a voice.
No.
You're still developing, so you look
Yeah.
back and you see these things. But I don't blame my parents. They were doing the best
Of
that they
course.
could
Of
at
course.
the time. But so many operations, in a time out of school. I really struggled in secondary school. Everyone was always falling out with each other. It
I
was
know it's so toxic in secondary school, isn't it? It's so hard.
it's so hard, and I was dealing with this sense. I think that's when it started to dawn on me that I'd been through some stuff that was I needed to look at. Even as a teenager, I was realizing, okay, there's been an impact
Mm,
of my experience so far that's a bit different.
yes. Yeah. Well, I suppose at the age of maybe 14, we start to be able to, we haven't got the benefit of hindsight yet, but
No,
we can start to do more complex thinking.
right.
And actually, because we're still not fully developed, it takes really anywhere 21, 25, even
It
30.
does. Yeah,
So actually, when we're using that complex thinking, we're using it on the foundation of some of those very difficult
we are.
experiences. So it's a really challenging time to be able to do complex
It
thinking.
is. When you've got so much going on around you, and you've also
Yeah.
got children with their own complex issues.
Yeah.
The thing is with my story is, like, I want to be super clear. It's not about disability.
No.
It's really not. What's really helpful with my example is that it's tangible.
Yes.
but we've all got a story. We've all
Yes.
got a life history that impacts how we experience the present moment and
Yes.
dictates what's possible for us. And so I kind of look to share my story, not from a place of disability, but whilst including that and doing work around supporting inclusion around that more. It's really more to say, look, take my story and reflect upon your own story.
Yes, absolutely. That's what's so beautiful about you. It's not just the words that you say today, but I think it's in every step that you take, be it through your painting, be it through the work that
Mm,
you do with inclusivity, be it through,
mm.
the words that you use. Everything is reflective of connection to each other,
Yeah,
but connection to living.
to living, to really living, because we're gonna die, like
Yeah.
straight up. We are not here for that long.
Yeah.
You know what? Who was it? Mary Oliver, and I'm gonna quote her wrong, but at the end of one of her poems, she said, "What is it? Something like, what is it you plan to do with this precious wild life?"
Yeah.
Sorry, but like you've
That
got
gets
one
to you.
shot
Yeah.
at this.
And it's scary, but also important to embrace, like, the small moments.
Exactly, and we were so busy. I think when I talk about a fundamental experience of being human that we all share, well, like what is that? So we've all got this kind of sense of a person in our head talking to us,
Yes. Yeah.
and usually, look, put it this way, nobody's rushing to the mirror in the morning to discover who's waiting for them. you
No.
know
True story.
right, because we've got this experience of our past which is based on the kind of parents or caregivers we had,
Yeah.
siblings, friends, social, economic,
Yep.
and then the events of our life that creates the filter, as you know, through which you view the world,
Yeah.
right? And so it creates a character in I mean, what's a story? You have to have a central character.
Yeah.
So we're this central character in a story,
Yeah.
and it's based on the past, trying to resolve something from the past and then trying to get to a future that you never, even if you got to it, you're looking in the wrong place.
Yeah, you're
You're
right.
really looking in the wrong place. My coach shared this story with me. He said, there was a guy and he's it's late at night and he's lost his keys and he's got the lamp, the street lamp, and he's looking for his keys. He can't find his keys. So this guy comes over and he's like, "What you doing?" He's like, "I'm looking for my keys." So he's there and he's looking around on the floor with him. He gets down, he helps, and 20 minutes in, and he said, I don't think your keys are here. Where around here did you drop them?" "Oh, I didn't drop them around here. I dropped them over there. But there's more light over here." We are
Wow.
often looking in the
The
wrong
wrong
place for our
place.
wholeness.
Yeah.
And it is the simple things. It
Yeah.
is those precious
It
moments.
really is. It really is. And I think a couple of the practices that I use in my work is breath work.
So good to do that.
So good. And the reason for that, and I always say this, is if you think about your brain and your body as like the M1, the M25, the
Mm,
M6, and all the sort of little roads in between, they get blocked.
yeah.
They get blocked because the way that we produce neurotransmitters and
Mm,
hormones and the way they all interact with each other and get blocked and get stuck. If you think of the Eastern ideas of the chakras and you think of the medical idea of the sort of limbic system and the hormones, those two worlds, if you try and combine them and then say, breath is life force,
it is.
and it keeps you so centered in the moment. And whenever anything's scary, there's two things I do. One is breathe, and you can learn to breathe in
Good.
particular ways that really sometimes you don't need food if you're breathing the right
Yeah.
way. And we all know, because of podcasts and recent movements in neuroscience and so on, how important it is to breathe properly. But if you breathe in a particular way, which I always teach my clients, and combine the work of being present, be it with hypnotherapy, be it with EMDR, or
Mm,
all of these different wonderful things, but also think of something that grounds you. And for me, it's always water. It's
mm.
always water and it's always breath. And if I can imagine the sound of water or even just watching, the movement of water as well as breathe, I can tell you now there's nothing that brings me more peace and grounding than those two things. And it comes from a thought. It
Mm.
comes from a thought. You literally can use your mind to
You can use
ground
it.
you.
The thing is, though, there'll be people listening to this, and their internal dialogue is just not
It's too
interested.
loud. It will interfere.
It's too much, and I think for me the job has been, and breathing really helps with it. I mean, I love box breathing, for example.
Of course. Yeah.
That send you to sleep. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
and you tell people, and even I sometimes am like, I've got so many thoughts going on, I just can't make myself do it. But
Yeah.
actually, it's so,
So simple.
so simple and
So
so
powerful.
powerful. And the thing is with the mind is that, first of all, most of your thoughts aren't even yours. They're
Yes.
given to you by the people you grew up with. You know, literally, the way your child thinks is based on how you spoke.
It is.
They're
It
spoken
is.
to.
Yeah.
The way you speak to your child will become their internal
Yeah.
dialogue. But on the one hand, yes, let's give our children good internal dialogue, but also they are not their thoughts. I'm not my thoughts. But again, it's all right knowing that, but it's doing the work and the breathing, the other,
Yeah.
and going inwards and really exploring what's going on for you in whatever, and also do it at your pace.
Correct. Because it's like any journey, isn't it?
Start at the beginning and know when you're actually resisting and you should be being brave and stepping forward. You'll get astute and you'll know.
You will,
You
because you can
know.
feel it. Your body keeps the score. There's a whole book on that.
Yes.
The body keeps the score. A couple of things that, with the breath work, and I also use sound bowls.
Oh, I love a good
Me
sample.
too.
If
You've got
you
to
really, oh,
say what you're going to say.
yeah,
I don't want to
I
stop
know,
you.
but it's just if you really stop and be with the sample,
Yeah.
suddenly just everything
It
drops.
does. And we know, like, if you put probes on someone's head when they're listening to music or sound bowls or anything like that, the brainwave activity literally changes. With sound bowls, because of the natural crystal quartz,
Mm,
it resonates so beautifully with our brainwaves. With that and the integration of breath, the integration of someone's voice who you trust, maybe guiding you through, be it
mm,
through meditation, hypnotherapy, EMDR, or whatever else, the combination of all of that, you will feel an energetic shift in your
you will.
body. And I always say about the energetic shift, because there's two things. Your body will tell you before, we're going on to sex here for a minute because there's a reason. Your body will tell you before you have sex with someone whether you want to have sex or
Oh
not.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
how many times do people ignore those? "Oh, I don't want to have sex with you," and they
And
have
yet they
sex
do it
anyway.
anyway for whatever
But
psychological reason
the
they've got.
body
Yeah,
is telling you. It's the same
yeah,
with the journey. It's the same with therapy. It's the same with anything. Your body will show you
it will.
signs.
It will
I
let you
use the
know.
example of sex there because most people have had that
Experience it, of
experience.
course. Yeah,
So if you can transfer that sexual experience
it's a really good
into it
example.
is, yeah.
Yeah,
It's the same with anything. Your body will tell you. And if you're going too fast, listen to your body. It's hard unless you do the work. You've done the work, and I've obviously done the work, and I do the work with other people. That's why therapy isn't just about talking,
no,
it's teaching you. And I said this on another podcast. You already have all the answers, by the
they're
way.
already in you.
They're already in you. You've just got to clear away all the sound, all the clutter.
It's clearing away what you aren't really.
Yeah, it's the conditioning, which
Yeah,
is
it's
what
the
you were
conditioning.
saying.
What you're clearing up is what you already aren't,
Yeah, you're
but
right.
you're presenting as.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
is the job at hand.
yeah. And you said something about the death thing, and I always say, you mentioned the journey, and I always say this, and I think this is really important. The journey is to death.
It is.
It is
I
to
mean, that
death.
is the one thing that we're all guaranteed,
Yeah.
and this is what we signed up for.
Yeah, it
You
is.
know,
You have to work out what journey you want to have because it ends in death. And if you think of it as a really long road trip
mm,
where at the end you're going to fall asleep and never wake up,
yeah.
what do you want to experience along the way?
And do you want it to be true?
Yes,
Do you
yes.
want it to be true?
Yeah,
Or do you want it to be through some concept of yourself? Like, your concept of yourself creates your reality.
it
There's no
does.
two ways about it. And we said it before about this, that you know there is no, when you wake up in the morning, and I remember leaving that voice note and we talked,
Yeah.
there is no world that is a particular way.
Yes.
There's a way, you wake up into a way of being in the world. And
Yes.
this is what I like to question.
Yeah.
What is that way of being fundamentally really who you are? Or
Yeah.
is there a different space to come from? Look, whilst we're alive, we can't not have a story.
Yes.
It's the very infrastructure of being alive. But do you want to come from the story into the story?
Yeah.
Or do you want to come from somewhere else?
Yeah.
Do you want to take your, and it starts with the internal dialogue, because that's what we're most used to. It's
Yes.
the linguistic side of things.
Yes.
It's the thoughts, ideas, and concepts, and how we perceive the world around us and our place in the world.
Yes.
But then there's the emotional level, which is the body
Yeah.
you talked about.
Yes.
They are two separate
They
things,
are.
and they're interconnected. But they're like a rainbow. You've got like the orange, but you've also got the blue. But they're
Yeah.
separate.
Yeah, they are.
And the job at hand, I think, in the end, for me, and this has been my process, is to first deal with the mind. So you take the mind, and and you fall in and out of it. But you want to take that mind and you want to put it in the passenger seat of the car. You don't want to at the driving wheel.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like if you're listening to the radio, you don't identify as the person on the radio. You might not like what they're saying. You might like what they're saying. You don't identify as it. You're not your thoughts. So if you can
Yeah.
get that you're not your thoughts,
Yeah.
then you can have deliberate thoughts. And also, if you become the witness of your thoughts, well, then you're not your thoughts
Yeah.
because you're witnessing.
Yeah.
You
The
know,
observer.
you are the observer. That's all good and well, but actually, the deep work is then the body.
Yeah.
Is then where in the body do I feel that?
Oh, yes. I ask this to everybody. Where do you feel? And do you know the funny thing is, I'm so glad you brought that up. The funny thing is, I ask people that question. They say the tummy, and I say, you're wrong. It's not the tummy. They go, what do you mean? They say, I definitely feel it there. And I look at them and I say, and I can tell by looking at people now, and I say to them, it's not the body. And they say, how do you know it's not the body? And I say, because the way you're holding yourself, I can see it's, it's not the tummy.
Yeah.
I say, I can see it's the solar plexus.
You can just see.
You can see, because you can see the tension as they're beginning to rise. Whereas when it's the stomach, they tend to drop a bit.
Yeah.
Where it's the solar plexus, they tend to do that. It's like
it pulls up.
Yeah. So you can, even those tiny nuances, you can see that someone doesn't know where they're holding it in their body.
Yeah.
It's because they're thinking I should say the tummy. They don't know, they've not paid attention.
No, exactly. And that takes work. And also, when we talk about really being with an experience, I don't mean tolerating it.
Yeah.
Most of what we resist, and I know it's a cliche, it's what we resist persists, and what we let be will let us be.
Yes.
And so actually allowing yourself to feel, and often it's the dreaded thought of rejection or the dreaded thought of no, also the mind will just take over from the body. We are meaning-making machines.
Yeah, we are.
We are, you go for a job interview and you don't get the job, the meanings you're going to make out of that.
I'm not enough.
And not enough.
I don't matter.
But it's not about that. It's about something that happened when you were 6.
Yes.
Or 4 or 7 or 12.
Interesting. That's a good thing to speak about, because when I started to use EMDR, I'd always used hypnotherapy because I love the creative process. I love the connection with the person, the relationship, and the hypnotic element of conversation and all of those things. And of course, I'd done the integrated psychotherapy. But then I went on and did EMDR. And one of the things that's fascinating about EMDR is that obviously it's brain-based, and the bilateral stimulation is where you start to process emotions and information. And what happens with your memory is you apply an emotional tag to the memory, and it gets stuck with that emotional tag.
It doesn't come through you.
It doesn't come through you. It's stuck there, and it affects the body. And when I use EMDR, I explain we're going to take that tag off and we're going to put a different tag on. And within one session, although on paper it says you should have 12 sessions of EMDR, but because I use hybrid methods, it's not always...
You're multi-skilled.
Multi-skilled. But within one session, people's perception, not every time, but in a lot of cases, people's perceptions of themselves, that paradigm shift happens because you've removed the label from the memory.
It's yes, and I'm so glad you said that, because it is the linking up with the thoughts.
Yeah.
If I've got a huge bill that's coming in 3 months, so I might be worrying about that bill, but actually I'm not worrying about the bill. I'm having thoughts. It's the thoughts I'm dealing with, not the actual bill and that's coming in. And the meaning. And the label. And the label. When the bill comes, I'll deal with the bill.
Yeah, yes, you're absolutely
But you're never really, just to be clear, nobody is ever really dealing with what's happening. Absolutely. They're dealing with their thoughts, and it overtakes everything. Yeah. So you doing the work that you do is really powerful.
It's a privilege. I cannot, as much as people say lovely things about the work we do together, as I'm sure when you hear lovely things about you, in my mind, I'm just like, you don't understand. I'm getting to live a life that makes me feel so grateful every day, because the people that I'm sitting with give me so much. I can't explain it. I can't explain how powerful it is to do the work I do. I love it so much.
Yeah. And it comes across.
Thank you.
It really comes across, and that's going back to what I said at the beginning. That's why I was like, when you invited me, yes. Yeah. It wasn't just about the obvious reasons why somebody would want to do a podcast. Yeah. Because fundamentally everything you do has a way of connecting people and reminding them kind of whatever it is, we can't quite find the word, but more of a true, full experience of being human, where we can realise we aren't whilst we might feel separate, we aren't separate.
We aren't.
And knowing that is not enough, and you've helped create the experience for people, and that's really special.
Thank you. And likewise, again, I said this, it's just mirrors right now, because everything that you've said today, it just, when you can feel, it's like, we talk about energy, but you can feel the fuzzy warm energy as someone talks. And I get that with you. Even on the voice notes on Instagram when we first started chatting, there's an immediate fuzzy warmth with you. You resonate so highly.
The thing is that I really do believe that we are all one consciousness experiencing ourselves subjectively.
I so agree with that.
Yeah, and I've had moments of having that as an experience. Where I've because I've done lots of different bodies of work, and I've gone into altered states without having to take any drugs or anything. It's just the work that
Me too. Yeah.
And I get that I'm that person over there. We are all one.
Yeah.
We just forgot.
Yeah.
We just forgot. And as wonderful as that is, we get trapped in the hypnotic nature of, we just forget. We get caught in this pattern of trying to get to a future that is going to make everything okay.
It's overstimulation though, isn't it? It's overstimulation.
Especially with social media, as powerful as it is, everything's perfect.
Yes.
In everyone else's world. Of course we know logically that's not true and it can't, but that also creates another layer now. Another layer of problem that I didn't have growing up, thankfully, but But
I think you said something to me earlier, and I can't remember if it was before we were recording.
We had a good old chat earlier.
Yeah, we had a good old chat. And you said something which I always say as well, which is the survival mechanism of the brain. And I think one of the reasons that we struggle with being here now is that the brain is primarily programmed to keep you alive.
That's its job. Back in the day, it was saving us from lions. So,
exactly, and it still thinks it is. It's like, oh, what's that loud bang? I'll keep moving. What's that uncomfortable feeling? I'll keep moving.
It's designed to keep us safe.
Yes.
So it will see a problem where there isn't one. So, for example, my thing has been about life letting me in.
Yeah.
So I know it's not happened, but say, for example, we had to cancel the podcast.
Yes.
Right? You couldn't do it. My mind would go to, Ella's changed her mind. She does. I'm not going to be let in. Like, even if we rebooked it, like I don't buy into it anymore, but that's where my mind would go.
Yeah.
And then if something, or life isn't letting me in, I'll make, when you get so caught in a way of thinking, you will take the most tenuous links.
Yes.
And make it about, the problem is with that, is if you're trying to vision your future and create a future for yourself, you are bringing the problem with you.
It's like a big, very, very big, heavy rucksack.
It is. And if I'm perpetuating the idea, I want to be let in, I'm then in turn creating a situation where I'm not going to be included. It comes with it, because I have to keep finding people to not let me in.
Yes. It's like you've got to keep living in that matrix.
You've got to. The system's got you. And then you get moments of being let in and you'll feel better, but it doesn't last. Because like I said earlier, with the guy looking for the keys, you're looking in the wrong place.
And this is why I was talking about the body. Well, you mentioned the body. Actually, I didn't. You mentioned the body and you were talking about where do you feel it. And for example, with the solar plexus, as I mentioned that, if you're conditioned a certain way, be it that you're conditioned by parents or by someone that's abused you, or, like being locked in the toilet, whatever it is, that will affect your self-esteem. That hits right there in the solar plexus. Yeah. Now, in the same way, the solar plexus will feel the lack of self-esteem. It will feel the aggression. It will feel the frustration. And that's why we call it the fire in the belly, right? And it's where the body produces acid as well, hence the reason we call it the fire in the belly. But also, if you do get let in, you'll feel it in your solar plexus, and it will rise into your heart.
Yes.
And don't forget, for people that have low self-esteem, it often gets caught in their throat.
I've had that.
Yeah, where you feel you can literally.
You do. You're going to have, if you've got anxiety and everything's going to be low.
It's going to be low.
It's going to be low, and it needs to kind of
come out
and through. It's such a hard thing to do.
It is.
I think especially when you've been perpetually not let in.
And so you're going to feel that again, and then it's going to suppress your voice, and you're going to go into that mind moment of, well, essentially the part of you that arises is the inner critic.
Yes.
And that's so much stronger. And actually, the reason I think the inner critic is so much stronger is what you just said there about being stuck in the matrix. It's familiar.
But you know what? People will take the familiar over freedom.
They do.
because the familiar is what they know, and the
Is what they
brain
know.
seeks familiarity.
So I'm going to say, I don't have anxiety anymore. I used to have really bad anxiety, and I was working with, I've done my training, which we can talk about, but I've also had years of therapy, and also got my coach. And I remember, because I did the Wim Hof breathing technique, which I love.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, and I would do the cold shower, and I would have anxiety, and I'd feel it there, and it would just go in the shower. I mean, I recommend it freezing cold. It would just go.
Because it's breaking the state.
Yes, because it's got to, because all your systems firing up, because you've made yourself so cool.
Literally.
Wim Hof explains it so well.
But you can do, I use that in hypnotherapy, and I use that in EMDR, where we imagine the ice
That's
to break the state. You imagine it. So you can
get too cool then. It's great. It's like my brain before I'm getting in the shower is like.
But you do need to do the cold shower as well, I think.
I think it does help when you're breathing.
It does.
But I remember just thinking, why won't you go away? Anxiety, why won't you go? And then I got to a place where I was being with it, not with the mind, but as an emotional experience. And because I record my sessions with my coach, I can play them back in the privacy of my own home, and I don't have to worry about him being there in a way waiting, so I can really go at my pace.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant. And I was there and I was listening to him, and the anxiety came through. So I took his guidance and I paused it, and I watched. And as it came through, and to leave, I clocked my internal dialogue go, "Don't leave me, I need you."
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, all this time, it had been me keeping the anxiety going.
Yes.
But I was resisting the experience of anxiety, because anxiety as an experience is hard on the body.
It's very hard on the body. It's actually causing disease for a lot of people.
Yes.
And what's interesting about that is because I follow the principles of IFS psychotherapy, really, which is the part of psychotherapy. And what it says is we have this internal system of characters.
Yes.
Now, the anxiety is a character.
Yeah.
And it's like that overbearing best friend. It's like, I don't want you to be friends with those people over there, but you feel loved by that friend because they're controlling you, really.
Yes.
But that feels like a form of love.
It does.
And
it's known.
And it's known and it's
known.
familiar.
And I was like, as bad as the anxiety was, I knew myself in the world.
Yeah, you knew how to navigate.
Because we need that. We need to firstly have a sense of how to navigate, and we need to have in truth, a false sense of control.
Yeah, you're right.
You know,
false sense of control is the biggest problem.
It's the biggest problem, and it's the thing that tends to hold people back the most.
Yeah, you're right.
To not let go. And I don't go off on tangents here, but what makes me super cross is in the 60s when they stopped the use in therapy of
psychedelics,
because where we could be now.
I know that conversation I have privately with a lot of my friends, and I am actually on this waiting list, which I need to chase up because I've been on it for a very long time with MAPS. MAPS are the body for psychedelics, and they do a lot of experimentation, and you pay to be part of the waiting list so that they can fund a lot of the research. And some of the courses are about 20 grand, but I really want to use it as part of my practice.
Yeah, you'd fit in really well with what you're doing. And it makes me, you had Timothy Leary and he was so outspoken about it, and then it went to the mainstream. And of course, then, what happened next, and it got shut down.
Yes.
But you think of all these kind of antidepressants we've got now, and yes, they do work for some people, but for some people they just don't work.
And they're not actually supposed to be on them forever, but the pharmaceutical world does like to keep you there.
Exactly. Well, also, I think once the pharmaceutical world can work out how to make decent money out of the psychedelics,
we'll see it. We'll see it. That's happened with marijuana in America in particular. Right. They've really opened up to that. It's just not quite caught on here.
No.
We know we've got medical marijuana, but it's not quite the same here. But in America,
held back. Yeah,
we are held back. We're a bit more reserved.
There's some great Netflix documentaries on all of this stuff that people can find. It's really
it's important to bring it into the conversation, Carly, because ultimately, as we said before, we're living in a really important time where we still have freedom of speech.
Yeah,
and you can still
long.
We don't know how long. And these little snippets of conversation within the larger conversation we're having, it might just be that thing that people go, "Do you know what? I was always opposed to anything that I thought was drugs.
Yeah.
But actually this lady, Carly, she sounds really intelligent. I was just...
have a look into it.
Yeah.
I think that's a drug that was in the documentary in America where they've legalized them all for, what's it called, microdosing.
Yes.
Apart from one, I can't remember which one, because a particular tribe uses it. So they've actually they've kept that illegal just so the tribe doesn't lose access, because everyone's then going to grab that limited amounts.
I don't know about this.
I don't know
That's
if it's
new
I don't know
information.
what drug it is. It's in the documentary, but basically they've made them all legal in certain states.
Except for that one.
Except for that one, but deliberately to protect
The tribe.
the tribe, yeah.
That is beautiful.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yes.
Because otherwise we'd all just be,
Taking
rushing
it.
in and just taking it, actually. And
Which is what's happened with Ozempic.
Yeah.
With the skinny jab.
Yes.
Where everyone's injecting themselves and people with diabetes can't get hold of it.
I know, I've heard about that.
Yeah. It's totally wrong.
Yeah, it is. But it's all about a quick fix, though.
It is all about a quick fix rather than health.
Health and well-being, and taking it at your pace, but doing the work. Fundamentally doing the work, because what else is there to do? Like, do you want to be on your deathbed and just go, oh, somebody else led my life? That, when you fight, because you will have that moment, I think, if you're lucid enough at some stage to go, oh, I should have, even if it fails, just try it.
I love this conversation so much. And it might sound a bit morbid, and the reason being is when I think about death, which I do frequently, because I'm a fan of it, really. I find it fascinating, and not because I'm not morbid. It's because I find the idea of not being. I had general anaesthetic once, and I remember waking up, and as I woke up, I was like, I wouldn't have known if I wasn't here, and it was such a freeing. But I loved it.
You were really.
I was freed by the fact that when I was put to sleep and then woke up, I didn't know I didn't exist, and it didn't matter.
I like that.
I didn't know.
That scared me. You see, I won't go under general if I can avoid it for the same reason.
Because you lose the sense of self.
Yeah, but isn't that
love
interesting?
that.
How you see the different experiences.
Yeah, it freed me. It made me realise that once, and actually, if I was ever given a terminal illness where I knew I was going to suffer and there was going to be a lot of pain, I would definitely take the option of Switzerland.
Yeah, that's a good option, actually, that we don't allow anywhere else.
No, I would definitely take that option, because when I went to sleep, I didn't know I was asleep. And the freedom within exactly what you've been talking about, consciousness and the oneness of it all, is you go to sleep and you never wake up. Now, the only reason that's scary is because you think you know about it.
Yes,
and when I
woke
your
ego's still playing. You're coming from ego.
Ego state.
Yeah.
But I woke up realising that I didn't realise I'd been gone. So it made me feel like, oh, that's fine then. I just won't know about it.
Alan Watts talks about that. You don't remember the time before you arrived.
Yes.
So when you go,
you don't know.
You don't know.
And actually, you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm back again. Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough. Carry on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was literally...
I love it.
And it released me from every single fear. I mean, I don't have a lot of fear as it is anyway. Not consciously anyway. And I just thought, I'll make the most of this then.
Yeah.
What great. Super duper.
There was the story of the guy that, it's a fable really. He takes himself out to sea to commit suicide, doesn't want to be here anymore. And then he goes, well, if I'm going to kill myself, I might as well go back and
live.
Yeah, live.
He literally had that dichotomy.
Yeah, he just had that moment. Okay, well,
what if I carry on just living?
Yeah.
And it's sometimes it's really that simple. I know,
but it's about experience. You see,
yes,
it's a bit like in life. A really good example most people understand is if you try and explain to someone what it's like to get on a roller coaster ride, right? Yeah. So we're going to go on, and you tell them it went up, it went down, with breath, and it was upside down, and oh my goodness, get on the roller coaster.
Do it.
Get on the roller coaster, and that is. It's the experience.
Yeah.
And what we're doing, you and I, is we're pointing towards something.
Yes.
We cannot give the experience.
So
but
true.
and I know it can be scary to look at what's holding you back.
Yeah.
And it feels never ending, and in truth it kind of is to a degree.
Yeah.
But there's levels you go through.
Yeah.
And I think we can just point, but I think what it's about is being responsible. Like responsibility for your life and your experiences.
Yes.
And when I say be responsible, I don't mean that you're responsible for other people's behaviour. No, what they've done is on them. You're ultimately responsible for your experience. That also doesn't equal your experience was wrong or bad.
Yes.
It doesn't. But the point is, if you cannot look at yourself and really, if you're really struggling in life and do the work, then it's on you. automatically, because nobody can do it for you. So that's what I mean by responsibility. And then with responsibility comes power. And I don't mean power like, you know, ego and I'm in charge. I mean an opening to life. Flow. A space, you know, we don't know that we don't know. So, for example, if I was to say to you, right, Ella, I've got these purple glasses and I want you to put them on. So you stick on those purple glasses and everything's looking purple, right?
I love the colour purple.
Well, that's probably why my brain went there, right? So, okay, you're right, you're in purple, I'm in blue. I'm going to put blue glasses on. So the lens that I'm looking through is blue. The lens you're looking through is purple.
Yes.
Which one's right?
Yeah.
And the lens is representative of the lens through which we look through life from our past experiences, right?
Yes.
Now, the thing is with that, if I say to you, right, there's purple glasses, you're not to take them off for 6 months. You'll stop noticing you're looking through a purple lens.
Yes.
We don't know that we don't know. The job at hand is to take the fish out of the water and go, look, mate, you are swimming in water. At least if you're going to get back in the water, know what you're swimming in.
Yeah, feel it.
Feel it. And that and being responsible for your experience is part of coming alive and open. And once you can see the lens through which you are viewing the world, it opens you up to taking the lens off.
Yeah.
And suddenly, it's a bit like if when you're wrapping Christmas presents and you've got that long tube and then you're playing with your kids and you look at your kids through the tube and that's all you can see. And what being responsible for your life does is start the process of removing that tube so that you can get the full view of what's possible.
Yes. And that's infinite.
And that really is infinite.
Yeah.
And the only thing that stops us is this voice in our head that we identify with.
That we've become friends with, even if it's a toxic friendship.
And it's so the things I say to myself that I would not say dream.
So true, isn't it? The inner critic is the inner bully. You've learned that.
Yeah. And the job at hand is to, you know, because what I've been able to do, occasionally I switch in out of different layers of consciousness around it all, is I've been able to have deliberate thoughts.
Yeah.
And when you have deliberate thoughts, I'm like, man, I should have played the lottery when I was in that state. Because stuff just
clicks.
Yeah, because
it's flow as well.
Flow.
Yeah.
It's flow. And I really get the whole thinking positively. I don't have an issue with it.
I quite like thinking negatively, though. It floats my boat sometimes because it allows that. It allows you to find reality sometimes. Positive isn't always realistic.
No. And what it is within the box.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can get that you are not your thoughts.
Yes.
Then and you not only get it, but you start identifying with it. You stop seeing yourself as your thoughts. Then they've got no power. You can have any thoughts. You can be the most negative person on the planet.
Yeah.
Because you're not identified with it. It has no impact.
Yeah.
And then you can have deliberate thoughts. And then life tends to meet you there because there's no thoughts getting in the way because you're not buying into them.
It's a very good way of thinking about this, which is for those that struggle with the idea of that. If you imagine you're watching yourself on a screen in the cinema, there's the version of you that's on the screen.
Yeah.
There's the watcher sitting in the front row.
Right.
The observer in the middle row. And then the awareness, which is just the projector.
Yeah, and you're the
inanimate object, which is not so easy to say. You're the inanimate object, the awareness. You don't even need to be the observer anymore. That's when you know.
The everything, nothing.
Exactly.
Which, it gets a bit into that's hard to. We're speaking on things that are hard to put words to.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
But it's the everything, nothing of reality. Yeah. There's this sense of separation. I'm here. That's there. There's this separation.
Yeah.
But if you take a pen and you blew it up to the size of this room, well, that would be a very big pen.
Yeah.
And then if you,
it would be a very big pen.
would. But if you blew it up to the size of the city, and then you blew it up to the size of the universe, and then you blew it up to the size of everything, there'll be nothing.
Yes.
Like there, do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
There we're all one.
We are all one. And I think the way I sometimes try and get people to get the energy thing, because that one consciousness and all of that is interesting.
It's hard to get there.
It's hard to get. So I always say, imagine you walk into a room where there's been an argument. You don't know the people in the room. You don't know what they've argued about, but you walk in and you know that something feels very wrong immediately and you want to get out the room.
Yes.
Could be a doctor's surgery, it could be a party, it could be a restaurant. You just don't feel safe.
No.
You are linking into that infinite oneness,
Yes, you
which
are.
cannot be seen, measured. It's just there. Equally, if you get onto a train or something and someone's laughing away, you don't know whether you're picking up on the energy.
Yeah.
And it's that one source that we are all a part
of.
But like you say, it's the subjectiveness within that that creates the separation.
And you do need to be in the world. You do need a story. You do need to deal with ego.
Yeah.
You can, unless you want to go and sit on a mountaintop for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You have to come down to the marketplace.
Yeah, you do.
You know?
And that's where art actually really comes in, because you mentioned the podcast earlier about the reflectiveness and the seeing yourself in other people's stories. With your art, and with many other people's art, you are able to see something that means something only to you in that moment. The other person looking at it may not feel the way you feel.
No, because they're coming from their perspective.
Exactly. And that's why art's so fascinating to me, and artists so fascinating to me. But before we talk about your art, you mentioned before your own training, and also I know you've had you're like a cat. You've had so many lives.
I've done some things. So yeah, just we'll go back a bit then. So when I was in school, just to give a more of a sense of the malaise that I was in, I suppose, I was made to do typewriting classes in my lunch break, like two or three times a week.
Right.
And I hated it. And I kind of asked why, and they said, well, because you've got a disability, Carly, you probably won't get a job. So if you can type.
You've been given this information.
This is not even like implicit. This is explicit communication, right? Amazing. And well, I told my dad, and he wrote a note, and it was stopped the very next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you must have felt in your body, as we were saying before, you feel it in your body. This isn't right.
This isn't right. The thing is, when you're having this fight of being let in, because it becomes about that.
Of course.
In order to be in the fight, part of you has to, in truth, believe maybe they're right. So I'm fighting. But actually, emotionally, what's going on deep down is maybe they're right. Maybe I can't,
Is that still there?
As an emotional experience in the body, yes, I can feel it as I share it with you now.
Yeah.
Because I'm not attached to it anymore.
Yeah.
So I can feel it in the body, this sense of, and that's about being responsible. Like I said, being responsible for your experience and going, no, that's really there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just being controlled by something that is in your unconscious.
Yes.
And really, it's about bringing the unconscious into consciousness so that you have some say. Was it Jung who said?
Yes. Make the unconscious conscious.
Otherwise, it would dictate your life, and you would call it fate.
Carl Jung, my favourite. Absolute favourite, because he was really the founder even of IFS. I mentioned earlier IFS psychotherapy, which is all about parts. And really, although this has never been said publicly to my awareness, without Carl Jung saying that, you wouldn't have got parts theory.
You wouldn't. And so it's really, I think, important to be responsible and do the work. And that's what it looks like for me is being with those experiences. But also having a father that was willing to step in and got it straight away. It was like just that would have had an impact on me as well.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
What I did do, I know the years are called different things now, but sorry.
I get an itchy nose all the time.
It's the whistling.
Oh, if you started to whistle. Explain to people the whistle, just because if they hear it.
Occasionally my nose, it whistles, and I've been to the doctor. There's nothing I can do about it. It just doesn't.
So if you hear a whistle, it's not a little birdie, it's your nose.
It's my nose. And I was saying earlier, John, my partner, came home from work once, and he thought I was home, but then he thought, well, I can't see her anywhere. She's not home. But then he could hear this noise, and he was like, what's that noise? And so he's wandering around, and he's like, maybe, I don't know, there's an issue in the airing cupboard. Maybe the extractor isn't working properly. That's how loud it was. And then he wandered in, and he went, no, it's Carly whistling. And he went and opened the door, and I was just looking at my phone. I'd not took my shoes off yet. And there I was, just whistling away. So yeah, just to go off on a little, occasionally you might get a whistle.
Well, at least we know what it is.
Exactly. My mum is like always on me about, can I go to the doctor? I've been to the doctor. Yeah, because she really picks up on that kind of thing.
Does she? Yeah.
Yeah. What's the whistling, Kyle? I can hear you whistling again. All right.
I think it's great. We know where you are.
Yeah. Just whistle around. So going back. So I did the first year of secondary school. I did the second and the third year. Then I No, I did the first year of secondary school. I skipped the second year. I did the third and the fourth year, and I skipped the final year of school and went straight to college.
Wow.
So I just got through that, got out. So for someone who wasn't going to do anything,
You showed them.
I went to college and I did art, but I wasn't very good at it. I got into an art foundation. The teacher before I did the art foundation, I did a 2-year course, and she said to my parents, apparently, I find out these things later, she's so terrible at art that please don't bother putting her through to the art foundation. There's no point in her going for an interview. So my parents rang them and said, as the whistle, rang them and said, shall we bring her along? And I think almost out of pure annoyance by Barry, who ran the art foundation, was like, bring her along. That's a terrible thing to say. And they took me on the course. I had an amazing year. I met people from all over the world, and I'd never met, like, I'd been grew up in Bristol, from Bristol, quite institutionalized in many ways.
Yeah.
And suddenly I'm meeting people from Belgium, France, and they were slightly older, not by much, but also they were older. They had more. There was something about the European culture that was just
Yes.
so much more about them, and that was wonderful. They were just more mature than the English counterparts at that time.
I'm still shocked by that. Sorry to butt in. And again, for the people that look at Carly's work before they listen to this, hopefully you will, and even if after, I still can't believe she said you weren't
Oh, I
very
was
good.
crap. No, I'm not joking. The work was so look, I disliked painting. I did not enjoy painting. I could draw, I could sketch, and I always had done. And as a child, even at 6, 7 years old, I was trying to make sense of the world. And I would draw these pictures of different people in different scenarios. And I'd always planned to write stories to go with them, but I never did. And there was these piles of pictures just with pencil of obviously probably kids my own age and the dramas and all that. And so I always drew, and I could kind of draw, but painting I hated. I was really rubbish at it. And when I did my art foundation, I focused on film photography, well, mainly photography at that stage.
Interesting.
Then I went to 3 different universities.
3?
Yeah, because my dad was really worried about me moving. Like, he was really protective of me, and he wanted me to go to Newport, and there was a guarantee entry system from the course that I was on, and he wanted me to be safe. And his
Yes.
thing is about being safe. So he wanted me
Yes.
to be safe. Within the first term, I was like, right, I'm going to Nottingham. So I got into Nottingham. They loved my portfolio. It was photography and stuff, and they
Yeah.
loved it. But then when I arrived on my first day, so I've done a term in Newport, I go into Nottingham, I walk in, and as I walk in, I picked the wrong place.
Immediately.
Immediately, I just knew.
Body keeps the score.
Body keeps the score.
Yeah.
And I just knew. And I was like, I went home and I rang my dad crying in my dorm, and I was like, I've did the wrong.
Oh no.
And he was like, what my dad does is he gets very angry and shouts and screams like, what are you doing? And then he calms down very quickly and goes, right, what are we going to do?
Yes.
But you've got to let him have his moment of
He's
going,
got to expel the energy.
let it out. And then he's like, right, what are we going to do? And I remember sitting there in Nottingham, and I was doing some work, and someone was having a review with a teacher, and it was great work. From what I can remember a long time ago, the teacher was destroying it, and in such a way that wasn't supporting the student. You could just see her falling apart, and she was holding it together, but you could see it destroying her internally. It wasn't supporting her. Maybe he had some points, but the way he did it, and I just thought, I know I don't belong here. I am going to end up in that position. And so I finished out the year, and then I went to Leeds.
Wow.
And so I spent 3 years, and then they said, like, whatever the governing body is said you can't move again anyway. So you're there.
You've got to stay here
literally
now.
Like you've met. This is your third go. So but it was great. I met some amazing people.
Leeds is lovely.
Leeds is lovely. It's a great city. It's like a mini London.
Yeah, it is.
And I loved it. And there was moments, of course there is, but overall I had a great experience there. Great nights out.
Yeah.
Just really honed in on my photography and then my film. And I started making these films that were really about creating an experience of movement internally. I want you to really feel something for yourself.
Yes.
In this. And so I started making these pieces, did my degree, got a 2-1, and then I came back home, and I'm kind of like, where can I make stuff happen? So I was doing a lot of volunteer work in TV post-production. And then I went to this place called 422, which was more of a graphics company. And they said stay for 2 weeks. I ended up bringing in my own computer and I stayed for like 6 months.
Wow.
And I had the time of my life there, brilliant people. Some of them I'm still in contact with to this day. And it was fantastic. And then I was still working so at that point I'd work part-time for my dad because I'm not making any money at 422 really, the odd job, but generally I'm just there for free, being in the
Pro
environment.
bono work kind of thing.
Yeah. And just making friends, really. Just a lot of friend making
And
going on.
and what a great way to do it.
Yeah, going to the pub as well, having long
Yeah.
lunch breaks.
Yeah.
It was great fun. And there was a guy that worked for my dad. My dad was an MD of this transport company that worked back when there was newspapers and stuff, and they had the Daily Mail and the Evening Post. And it was like I'm the boss's daughter, and I'd go in and I'd work on reception 5 or 4 days a week in the afternoon, and my mum would do the morning basically.
Yeah.
Because my mum used to have a cleaner's job that she loved, but my dad didn't like her doing it because it was like, oh no, I don't want you doing a cleaning job.
Oh
Basically.
wow. Yeah. So
But she loved it. She had her friends there. And she really
yeah.
enjoyed it. But then she ended up working for my dad because she wanted to make her own money and, all that stuff. They share their money. But anyway, and then this guy came in and he just had a twinkle in his eye. And I thought, well, what's that about? Because I've picked, and at that point I'd read things like The Alchemist,
Yes.
Celestial Prophecy, all
Yeah.
those starter books.
Yeah.
So I knew there was more to life because, especially when I was in Nottingham and I realised I was in the wrong place, I felt very lonely. I'd made friends there, but I knew it was like being stuck back in time by 3 seconds constantly. Like I just felt like I was in this strange bubble of I really don't belong here. I shouldn't be
Amazing way to
here.
describe it.
Yeah. Like I'd gone back in time 3 seconds.
You just couldn't quite reach that
No.
moment.
And I went to a Tracy Chapman concert.
Oh
and
my gosh, I love Tracy Chapman.
I couldn't feel anything.
That's a Tracy.
Fast car.
You couldn't feel anything.
Couldn't feel anything.
You were disconnected.
I was disconnected because I'd made this mistake and I'm all about being let in and I'm already behind.
Yeah.
And I've taken a U-turn.
Yeah.
So I'm making all this meaning out of it and I'm really disconnected.
And you didn't feel anything at a Tracy Chapman concert.
Says it all.
That says it all. That literally says it all.
I mean, stick it on now and I'll pull my eyes out.
Yeah, but at the time, total disassociation, disconnection.
Yeah, because I'd made this mistake. I forgot where I was going now.
Sorry, I was just so blown away by you didn't feel anything at Tracy. I couldn't believe it.
I know.
The thought took over.
I don't know where I was going.
So, mum cleaning, working with dad, twinkle in his eye.
So, and I said, yeah, what have you been up to? He said, I went and did this body of work in London with this organisation called Concord Institute. So that's interesting. Get me a brochure or something, I'll have a look. So got the brochure and I was like, this is what I'm looking for. They were exploring the nature of reality.
Oh.
What is it to be human? What is the human experience? So I thought to myself, I'm going to do this. And at the time, naively, not being aware of how people go at their own paces and some people aren't ready to just dive into things, I was like, Mum, do you want to come do this with me? She was like, no.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And then, people can get quite aggressive if you push it.
Yeah, they can. They can.
So I went and did this course and it took me out of the matrix. It's the only way I can explain it. It was so packed, but it was hard work.
Yeah.
It was really challenging. I'd never done anything from before. I was not long out of university. I'm 22, 23 years old, and I'm suddenly and in this course room, so it's a course room full of people, and people are sharing, and some people have been through some awful stuff.
Yeah.
Now I can hear anything and I've got space for it. Back then people had been abused, all sorts of things. It was a bombardment.
Yeah.
And I remember ringing my dad because he'd put me up in a hotel that, I was a daddy's girl, he would just take care of me and stuff like that. He would worry about me. When I moved to London, I couldn't go on escalators because he'd made me so scared of it. And then I couldn't get around London, so I had to teach myself to.
Interesting. So his worry really sort of infiltrated. Yeah.
So he's has a big impression, and he has very good reasons because he was in a motorbike accident when he was. I'm going to get back to the point, but he was in a motorbike accident at a young age. He'd gotten himself a motorbike, and he won't mind me sharing this. He got himself a motorbike, and his dad warned him. My granddad, who I love and miss, he said, if you get a motorbike, you'll be in an accident within 1 week, right? Don't get a motorbike. He gets a motorbike. He's going along the road, no helmet, accident. And it's not his fault. There's a lorry truck, I don't know, going the wrong way.
Oh my
He
gosh.
goes up, he goes over. I think he lands outside a doctor's house or something that saves him, changed him, fundamentally changed him. He's he wants me to be careful as a result. Let's just put it that way, right?
My gosh.
Then he has a daughter with a disability. It's like, it's the worst case scenario really for
Yes.
him
Yes.
with regards to safety and concern. So his voice has been a big part of my voice.
Yes.
A really big part of my voice.
Learn thinking, learn believing.
And he was a super free spirit before that. And then that accident, I think he was in hospital for 6 months.
Crikey.
And then, but it changed him. He married my mum. Like, I might not be here if he hadn't have had that accident.
True.
He married my mum. He settled down. He became safe. That was the choices that he made. So when I rang my dad and I'm on this course and I'm freaking out, like, this is too much, he said, well, Carly, you're in London now. So you could spend a few days looking around some nice galleries. You're there. Your ticket home isn't for a few days, whatever. You've got some interviews set up for some jobs and stuff. You could just enjoy the weekend, and because it was a 3-day course, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, go back in on the Wednesday evening for a completion. And I had job interviews set up during the week.
Got you.
And he said, but I think seeing as you paid for it, you might as well stay. And that was coming from my dad. And so then I was like, okay, I'm going to stay. I'm going to see this course out.
So your dad actually said to stay, even though you were freaking out.
Yeah, and he's the only person that could have.
Wow.
The only one. And I think, what was it? So I was 24 and I think I did about 15 years of work with Concord Institute. I became a coach for them. They wanted me to facilitate because I had the skills to.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to. And the reason why I didn't want to is because though I understood the content, I wasn't, in my point of view, fully living it. Or I'm not saying you've got to be perfect, but you've got to be living it enough.
Yes.
What you're talking about.
You do. You absolutely need to feel. Again, it's the feeling side of it.
I want to be able to come from that space, not just talk about that space.
Yes.
Because they'll pick up on where I'm coming from. It will impact them too.
Yeah.
But I coached and I became a head coach for them and I coached the coaches. So I did all of that. But what also happened is I really wanted to make more sense of the human experience. And in all that time after doing the work with Concord, I got a job straight away from that weekend, from the 2 days that I had in London. I got a job in London and I was working in TV post-production from that point. So I moved to London very swiftly after that course. Within a couple of weeks of doing that course, I was in London. It just happened.
So quick.
So quickly. Although I struggled because to get at that time, and back then it was all tapes. It wasn't like it is now.
Yeah.
It was a very physical job and you had to go in as a runner.
Yes.
You just had to.
Yeah. There's no way you can't get in otherwise, can you?
I could do all the other stuff because I'd done all the free work elsewhere, but they wouldn't. And I even had an email from one company who will remain nameless, mainly because I don't have the email anymore to prove it.
Yeah.
But they basically said, we cannot give you a job because you've got a disability and we can't make room for that.
Oh my
big
goodness.
Post house in Soho, yeah. Really big post house in Soho.
How long ago was that? Probably 20 years.
About 20 years ago now.
That just goes to show 20 years ago.
It was devastating to me. I was like, what can I do? I can't make myself better for you. Like, what, it was heartbreaking, but it was more of that coming from, oh, you're not going to let me in. It's just a reinforcement.
Reinforcement again.
I'm separate. I don't belong. It's almost like window shopping your life. You're not really in it. You're not really.
I don't matter. People don't see me as valuable.
No, I'm my disability.
Yeah. Yes.
And but cognitively you're not. But people are perceiving you.
Well, the disability is not the actual physical difference. It's the way society treats you. The disability is not in the body. It's in society.
And it's the culture of the time.
Yeah.
And so even people that are helpful, they're living within a certain domain at the time. But yeah, I ended up doing really well. I worked for places like the BBC, Channel 4, post-production, doing little edits for them, doing behind-the-scenes stuff. And then I was also doing the work with Concord in my free time.
Wow.
And then I had one of my first really serious boyfriends and all of that, you know, so it was all going on at that time.
A busy
It was a
time.
busy time, and I was living near the Holloway Road. It was chaos, and there was
Yeah.
all sorts going on. And I was like, I really want to understand. I love what I'm doing with Concord. It's like the metaphysical, I suppose.
Yes. Yeah.
If that's the right word.
Yeah, it is.
But I want to understand the science a bit more. Maybe now I'd have done psychology, but what I did is I went to the Tavistock.
Yeah.
And with the Freudian. And I picked Freud deliberately because to me it was the most non-magical, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it
it does.
just to go against what I was already.
Yeah. You're in that metaphysical, magical state
already.
Let's get
I don't know
the
if I felt
opposing.
that way, but I was looking, you know.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to understand, you know, transference, kind of transference, the good enough parent, Winnicott, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I spent 3 years training at the Tavistock, and then I did a year group psychoanalytic training at the Institute of Group Analysis as well.
I mean, you've done a lot of training.
Not to become a therapist, though, just to understand, but also to take it into the work at Concord so that, you know, so they can understand a little bit more about if you've got a difficult client, for example, you know, because they were coaching on these courses, what might actually be going on there so you can be a support with them, because they weren't trained, you know. So I was doing all of that. And then I was getting really quite successful, and I was making a lot of money, doing really well. And I was starting to get towards the picture of the rose-picketed, you know, white fence picture of what I wanted to create for myself. And I'd worked really hard to get there, and I'd had so much rejection. And I still felt left out because I was a freelancer. And while freelancing is quite normal now, it was more like you had an employed job then. And I was still always on the outside trying to get in. Although the CV looked great.
Yes.
But I wasn't happy. I was doing really well, but I wasn't happy. And then one day I was at Concord and we were planning the year ahead. And it was a weekend just to plan how the charity might grow, support the community, because Concord does body, mind, and spirit. So they're dealing with your thoughts, but they're also doing body yoga, tai chi, and then they're also doing cooking classes, microbiotic cooking classes.
Wow. I mean, this was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
This is
roughly,
really quite new.
They've got a history because the macrobiotic history goes back. I mean, it links back right back to all the big names actually. If you look back into the history of macrobiotics in Boston and New York, and it all kind of started there, and it was all to do with transformation of the body. We will change the world through food.
Yes.
And then Greg Johnson came along and was like, I think we can mix the mind with the you know, and that's what
the holistic approach.
And I loved it with them. Sometimes the infrastructure behind the scenes didn't always feel right to me, and I wanted to understand what was going on. So that's why I'd done the training. Because they were so professional at the Tavistock.
Yes.
And I really wanted that professionalism.
That structure.
Really made a difference. But I was at Concord, and so we were planning the year ahead, and I was sitting in my chair, and this is when it's so hard to explain without sounding like nuts. Something came out the skies, you know, and it didn't literally, but it was like this thing that hit me
energetically,
and I almost fell off my chair. My internal dialogue just silence, and a voice just said, "You're here to explore the human experience through art." And then it was gone, and I was back in the room. And I must tell you, my internal dialogue went, "You are no. You hate art, and you've just gotten your career in a really good place. No, you're not doing that. That is not happening." I was furious. I was utterly like...
You felt discombobulated.
Yeah, but also it's a bit like turning around to someone who's a dancer and going, "Actually, you should get a job in IT."
Yes.
It's
like, what are you talking about? Where has this come from, and who are you? Get lost.
Yeah, I was because it was an incredible experience in the moment, but actually when the internal dialogue came back in, it was furious, and so I ignored it for about 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, no, I've literally gone against the tide and fought my way into this industry that I'm part of now. That I'm finally getting the recognition I feel like I could have gotten years earlier if I didn't have a disability. And I'm going to quit it for something I hate and can't even do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What on earth? Like, what happened?
I don't know.
It's just that's like I'm sitting here going, okay, great. There's a energetic force that sends you this message.
Random.
Who knows why?
Never come back since. Yeah. And then, so you're ignoring it because obviously, no, it's like, imagine trying to tell that one to my dad.
Yeah.
We had the 3 universities. Huh? God, he's having a moment. I was having a moment. Anyway, I ignored it. I got severely depressed, like really depressed, because something very alive had come to me.
Yeah.
And I'd ignore it. If you get that kind of knock on the door and you don't respond to it when it's that freaking, like, talk about looking for a sign, like when it's that direct, if you don't then take what you're offered,
Yeah.
life is gonna, you're gonna
show you in different ways.
Yeah. And I got really depressed, really down. So I was like, okay, fine. And so I started painting, and they were awful. They were really,
I can't believe you,
they
Carly.
really, I need to find some. I mean, comparable to now, they were like awful. But I felt better. Something in me was opening up. And within 6 months, to cut a long story short, I started enjoying it, and I had a gallery, and I was starting to sell my work, and I got myself a studio.
Yeah, I like it's mind blowing, Carly.
So the work got better. And then I got signed by, I know one of your other guests talked about it with their father, Washington Green. I got signed by,
Yeah.
but before I got signed, because I would just put myself places. So I
Yeah.
would ring Castle Fine Art
Yeah.
and go, how do I get in? I'm not going to do the online email thing first. I'm going to get
Yeah.
a human. And the guy really loved my work. So he set up an interview with Ian and Glyn Washington. And I went in for the meeting with my art, and I was so excited, and I thought they were going to sign me, and I was all excited. And Glyn looked at my work, and he went, "That's fucking awful. That's awful. Those legs are too long. That face is ugly." And it was brilliant because I'd had no coaching at all. And the minute he put, a bit like being willing to look at myself, if there's something that's off, and I'll own it. So the minute he pointed out, I was like, "Oh my God, you've opened my eyes."
This is fascinating because you're referring to Billy Lockett there, whose father was an artist, and they wanted to sign him.
I remember the story.
They wanted to sign it, and Billy was 8 at the time, and his dad, who was quite eccentric, asked Billy, for those that haven't listened to that episode, asked Billy at 8 years old about this big business decision, because they were going to take something like 90%. No, it's not. Poor Billy. Billy went, no, that sounds like a rubbish deal. And that was the end of it. And it actually was, part of his dad's downfall from there.
I wonder, though, depending on how much it would have been, though, because you don't know.
You don't know what would have happened. Yeah.
So I took the road of Washington Green. So first they destroyed me, but I loved it. And when I would bring it up with Glyn, he'd get embarrassed about it. Glyn, you did me the hugest favor.
Yeah.
And he's such, it's quite a commercial world, that world.
Yeah.
He's such a genuine artist, Glyn. He's such, not him as an artist, but his relationship to art.
Yes.
So, whereas Ian is a little bit more commercial, and he's brilliant at that. He's brilliant at the marketing. Love Ian. And so I signed with Washington Green after they sent me off to life drawing classes for about a year. So they were like, you need to go to life drawing. You need to, in order to break the figure down, you need to know how it's made properly. You need to go to life drawing.
So you had to get a bit more into the autonomy.
So I'd go to the Princess Drawing School, and I was still selling art through galleries and stuff. And I'd go to Princess Drawing School once a week. Met lots of lovely people.
Yeah.
Some I like more than others.
Yeah.
And it was great. And it was these models, and I learned the figure. And I went back to Washington Green. But I think by then I think they said they would test me, and I was pregnant with Rivers at the time. And I didn't want them to know that, because I didn't want them to not take me.
Yeah.
So I didn't mention it to them.
Isn't it interesting that you have to think that way as a woman, though?
I know, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was like, I cannot let them know that I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
Because they're just, two men. That was my what they would have done, I don't know.
But the thought was there.
The thought was there, and there's a reason for that. So I did the work. They said they'd take me on as a test and see. They put me in the galleries, but they didn't officially announce me. And it's like the opposite of Billy's story. Like, they didn't want
Yeah.
to take me, and I was like, come on, we can do something.
Yeah.
They took me, and the work just sold. It was really, did really well, really successful. So then they signed me. Even then, that was a process to get them to sign me, even with the success.
Wow.
But different times,
Yeah.
you know, back in the heyday, apparently they were buying people like Apple, this and that stuff, you know, for the Christmas presents. You know, now it's a bottle of wine. Like, times are different. Times
Yeah.
are different, you know.
Yeah.
So they signed me, and the minute I went to see my first limited edition, I kind of knew, for me, I felt like I'd made a mistake. I looked at the print, and I just felt it wasn't alive. It didn't speak to me. I know lots of people brought it, and that's great. But what I realized is I was suddenly a very little fish in a big pond. And
Yes.
I had been creating from whatever that calling was. It had
Yeah.
come through. And when I paint, I go into complete stillness. My mind switches off. You know, that state,
Yeah.
flow state they talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
You're completely in the moment. And there's a connection to something beyond myself.
Yeah.
And that got switched off a bit at Washington Green, because what happens is you're in their system. You're a
Yes.
cog in the wheel.
Yes.
And if you can thrive in that environment, great. But it's not about any individual person. The structure is not looking for you to thrive. It's looking for them to make money off of you.
Got
And they
you.
did try and do things, but they tried to create possibilities. But generally, the hole on they were in, it wasn't alive enough, really, for me. And there was one moment a couple of years in, about 3 years in, when I'd made this body of work completely connected, 5 paintings. And what they would always do is take anything you made. So you'd only take home, after expenses, 25% of the profits.
Yes.
And if you're selling a print for 900 quid, you're going to take home about £20.
Yeah. It's really not a lot.
Yeah, like, it's ridiculous. People are shocked, you know.
Yeah.
A £900 print, and you take £20
Yeah. It's
home.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But you know, they take your work, so it's like guaranteed income, you know,
Yeah.
etc. They made so much money. I made about 50k before expenses.
Yeah.
You know, but in
Yeah.
London it's not a lot anyway. So I made this body of work, and it was from that really alive space.
Yeah.
And Frankie Washington was my go-to contact, and she loved the work too. And she took it to them. They do a review, but suddenly there was just a lot of people doing the review. It used to be less people.
Right.
Now there's all these people, and there's arguing about what they shouldn't take. And I don't know what it was like there with regards to whether they could financially keep taking everyone. I don't know. All I know is they got a bit tighter about it. And she said, this is special. She loved the work. I mean, I can't remember exactly what she said, but she loved it. And I was in a life drawing class, and I rang her because I get nervous that once a month now, what are they going to say? Because it affects your process because of where they're at.
Yeah.
The fact they're rejecting artists' work now, and they never used to, and they're rejecting a lot of artists' work. It wasn't just me. And she said they're not going to take it, which they always never going to take any of it, Carly. And I was like, it's too risky. And then I said, go back. This is special. Go back. So she got it. So she went back. And she said, you know what, they're going to take it, but on the premise that if it doesn't sell within 6 weeks, which is, it's got to get through their system, that is not very long. It's probably it's not going to be on the shelves for at least in the galleries. I mean, saying on the shelves, the fact that I just said on the shelves is an indication to the mind frame that,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not going to be in the galleries for 3 weeks. Anyway, and she said, so if it doesn't sell, we will take your next lot of work for free, which is also an indication that I have to go back to painting what I was. Do you see what I mean?
Wow. Yeah. This is not a healthy space.
So I knew that was the beginning of the end. Those pieces all sold within about 6 weeks. I mean, some of them sold the minute they hit. Some of them didn't barely make it on. They were out. The quickest selling work I'd ever made.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But your mindset now is affected.
I lost that flow.
Yeah.
So whatever that was died. I couldn't regenerate it because they said, right, it wasn't. So then I had to spend a month making what I'd always made. So then to go back again a month later to that from 2 months earlier.
Yes.
It's not how the artist works.
No.
A genuine artist needs freedom to explore,
Yes.
try new things, make mistakes,
Yeah.
all of those things. So I knew that was the beginning of the end. So I left Washington Green on very good terms,
Yeah.
very good terms with them. Never burn your bridges, and I still love them to bits. It's the infrastructure that they're in. The
Yeah.
people are gorgeous, and so I left them. And then we had the pandemic and all of that stuff. And I was like, Carly, you've just got to go for your socials. You've got to, because I would have shows where people would come along and there would be a queue of people to sign my autograph and stuff. I
Oh
was
my
having,
gosh.
all of that would happen. Yeah.
You were literally the celeb.
Yes, weird, isn't it? Because I'm just
Yeah.
Carly, but yeah.
But it's not weird because, as I said at the very beginning, just to remind people, check out Carly's work. Once they see it, they're going to understand.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Some pieces make people cry, and
That it's unbelievable.
you want to move people. I want to move people, and so yeah, I left the whole thing with lockdown. I was like, right, I've got to. So I got out there on my socials. I put my work out there, and I started selling all over the world. My Instagram following grew
Yeah.
and grew and grew, and then I've Australia, all over America, New York, Texas,
I'm not
California.
surprised.
So it just started to grow and grow, and something became alive again for me. It took me some time, I was almost institutionalized by what.
Yes.
So
Again,
it had taken me a really long time to really
break that.
break that. But then I did, and the clients, you can have direct access to your clients.
Yes.
So you get their experience of your work,
Yes.
and you get to really see the difference that it makes in people's lives.
Because it does. Art, whatever form of art it is, which actually leads me nicely into something that's happening in the future for you, but art really, be it music, be it sound, be it, visual, even touch, it has a profound effect on us.
The artist's job is to go into the abyss and bring
Yeah.
something back for everyone else.
And it really,
We're
like,
on
I
the front
feel that.
line
Yeah.
in that regard of the consciousness exploration.
Yeah.
We're on the front line, and that's why the thing is, when you're in front of a canvas, you know that you're the creator of your world.
Yeah.
Right. The job of the artist is to realize that's also their life too.
Yeah.
That you can, if you can work on your stuff and through the places that you feel limited and like there's no potential because of all these ideas and your concept of self, if you can really do the work to move through that, to make peace with that, as challenging as it can be, and account for the fact you're going to fall backwards and it's never, or if you can really do that work, you can start to realize that life is your canvas.
Yes, it is. It is. And for people that aren't, and I cannot paint.
Well, I couldn't paint.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe I can then. I mean,
exactly. If I
after
can,
hearing you say that, maybe I can. Maybe
you can. Trust me.
I mean, if you say that you couldn't and you do what you do
Oh,
now,
it wasn't great. Yeah.
but at this moment in time, Ella definitely cannot produce what you can. But I do have this mind that just it just joins dots together and ideas and creativity and artistry
Life
is
is
in
creativity.
here. Yes.
Everything is creative. Every act is creative. No matter what you're doing, no matter what you're involved with. The way you pick up a cup of tea, that's uniquely you.
Yes.
The way you do
Yes.
everything.
That makes me think of Tracy Emin.
Yeah,
because she really had a different take on. Well, she's the first, as I was growing up, and as you were actually, we would have been in roughly the same age. And I just remember seeing Tracy Emin and thinking, I don't get it. And then listening to her talk and thinking, oh, no, I get it.
Yeah.
Her voice put so much meaning onto the work that she was doing for me. And then it took a life of its own.
And then it did. And I think that's when I promise you, nobody here is an accident.
No.
Nobody is an accident.
No, Tracy Emin's phenomenal as a woman, isn't she?
She's absolutely phenomenal. And what she did and what you're doing and what is there is a fundamental reason you're here. And for me, it's like I said, the deeply felt but unnameable experience of being alive, that can go in all directions. It was in the way I edited. It was in the way I interact with people. It was in the way I coach, and it's in the way I make art.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's where you're coming from, like the roots.
Yeah.
And the branches and everything that come off it is the expression, and that can go in any direction.
Yes.
People are so focused on the end result. Let's get to what's really there in you.
Yes.
Let's find what's in you.
Yes.
And people often get stuck in, especially young people, but I don't know what I want to do. And it's like, well,
you don't have to.
You don't have to.
You're living proof of that, by the way.
Thank you. You know what confusion is? Confusion is not knowing and thinking you should.
Yes, you're right. You're right. And what you've done is you've followed a path, but you've kind of we keep going back to the feeling. You've felt something and you've followed the feeling.
Got to be brave.
You've got to be brave, and yeah. I mean, for you to be, with Concord, and they go, actually, I want a different structure here.
Yeah.
Feel it,
yeah.
do it, and then bring it to the table.
And bring it to the table.
And that's what your art is as well, isn't it?
And that's what the art is.
You are the art.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I'm not. I would say no. See, because I feel like something comes through me when I paint, and I feel like I'm the tool. I'm like the brush. I'm not in charge of it. I'm connecting to something, and of course there's structure to it. I've got to make a figure, but what the process, something beyond me is traveling through, and that's what people. But I get that it's my filter that it's coming through.
Yeah,
and I get that it's my access to it.
Yeah,
but I'm linking. When you put a piece of my art on your wall, you're not buying a piece of art, you're buying an experience.
Yes. And that does lead us on to the next part. But I've got to just say before we go to that,
okay,
right? I know what you're saying, but I see you as the art. Like if I was to watch you, having a coffee somewhere and I was to watch you interacting, to me, that's the art.
I see what you're saying.
You see what I mean? Like that. That's why I love what I do. That's why I said to you, it's the greatest privilege, because it's like the art is that unconscious behavior. That's what I love people watching. They don't even know that they're pieces of art in that moment. It's captured in my mind through my lens.
Yeah, we're all pieces of art.
Yeah.
In truth.
Yeah.
We just forget. We get caught up in the past and we're worrying about the future.
Yeah.
And actually, what there is to be here with what's so right now.
And people use the term, I always bring it back to sex, people use the term making love as though it's a physical act, and actually making love sometimes is spending time with someone and being so moved by that person that you feel nothing but love in that moment, and it may not last forever, but in that moment it's the most amount of love.
It's
intimacy. Yeah,
and intimacy comes in many forms.
It does. Yeah,
and it can be very alive.
It's very alive and it's very in the moment.
Yes,
you can't predict it and you can't create it. It's just there.
Right. Exactly.
But on this, because this is so exciting. So before Carly got here today, she was like, I need to just like inform you of some work I'm doing in the future. And you sent me a few messages. Mark Moreau. Now, I was like, I'll just have a little look through before you got there. And then I had this
bombardment of messages.
But it was a bombardment. But I tell you what, I started to read them, and I can't say this, I get this all the time, because I don't, but I was looking at a video that you sent, which we'll talk about, and I was reading about Mark, and I was just like, this is something really special.
Yeah, it's going to be huge
it's going to be huge. It's so special. I'm going to build this up, because as I read some messages, and I was reading about Mark and what Mark's done previously and what Mark's done with art and what you'll be doing with him. I had watched the video first, and I had to go back and watch the video again, and then I watched it again, and I was just like,
it makes me cry.
It makes me cry. And so
he's incredible.
So you like so explain this future project, please.
So Mark Moreau is a gentleman that I met through Washington Green. He was working with an artist called Scarlett Reagan.
Yes.
And he used to be a manager at Island Records.
Yes.
Who had Bob Marley, U2 on their books.
Yeah.
He'd also managed
Richard Ashcroft,
and also, God, who else had he managed?
Jessie J.
Thank you. Yes, I like
Ella Henderson.
There you go.
These are the more the names now, but also, I mean,
Shakespeare's sister, who I love.
De La Soul, my favorite hip hop group of all time. 9 Inch, NWA.
Thank you.
All these huge names.
He'd managed them all, but he wasn't your typical manager. He'd gone and then he'd done an art degree.
Yes, he had. He said it was either art or music.
Yes, and he had to make a choice.
Yeah.
But even within that, when he chose music, he was creatively involved in everything.
Yes.
Absolutely everything.
And he merged Island Records with was it Motown and Mercury?
Yeah, that's right.
And then he says, sorry to cut you off there, he says that he got, because it became so big, like one of the, if not the biggest label in the world. Right. I think it was, I can't remember is it MCA, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It became one of the biggest record labels in the world. He got so far away from the artist, he left.
He left.
He
Yeah, and
left.
that's what I appreciate about him,
Yeah,
because it was ultimately about being an artist,
yeah,
and it was about creativity
yeah.
and what was possible with creativity.
And that's when he set up the label where he was working with Richard Ashcroft of
Yeah,
The Verve
and did all
and
that.
Jessie J and Ella Henderson and the other girl, which will come to me in a minute. She's very massive right now. Big name. I can't remember. I will remember and I'll say it before we finish. But yeah, so he's involved in and then
So he was doing all of that.
Scarlett comes along.
And she says, "Can we do something together?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not completely sure what, but let me think." And then the opportunity, I'm not quite sure how, in his world of augmented reality comes along, and he was one of the pioneers actually
Yeah.
of augmented reality.
Yeah.
And she'd done some wonderful poppy paintings.
That's right.
So they took the World War One.
Yes.
And they did these amazing pieces of art, incredible pieces
Martin
of
Luther
art.
King
Yeah.
section at Liverpool and
Yeah.
all Manchester and
Yeah,
Belfast.
all these museums.
Yeah.
They got round. They were taking their work around these incredible museums in the UK doing shows. They were selling for 35k a painting.
Wow.
Yeah, and he brings so much insight and depth.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, I mean that video that you
he's
show
done
me
with
is an
my work.
example. Yeah,
So he basically creates. So what I do with the augmented reality is every paint, and we've been working on this for almost 2 years.
wow.
And I've only got 4 or 5 paintings. We need to, like, we're picking up the pace now.
Yeah,
But I'd not long left my publishers, and I needed to go back a bit. I needed to make a living, so I needed to make paintings that were just for sale
yes,
alongside this big project. Which
yes.
is partly why it's taken so long.
So long,
And now it's kicked off more. I can give more time to it.
but it's real magic.
I mean, but the work involved. So
Yeah,
every brushstroke, I have to stop and take a photo. Every photo.
every brushstroke.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally you're just like, okay,
Throw the paint at the canvas.
I'm just gonna, I know that whole area needs to be yellow. I'm just gonna quit,
Yeah.
and then Mark could be like, but he's great, but like he's very understanding.
So this is long work.
So this is long work, and you've got it a bit like in here. You've got to have all the lighting.
Yeah.
You've got to have all the windows closed.
Yeah.
So I had to get used to not working in natural daylight, which I
Wow.
love.
Wow.
And so, it was a lot to get used to.
Yeah.
But I did. And also we brought different technologies in that didn't always work straight away, and we have to try new things. And then,
Yes.
and then it would break down, and and then one time I got my son in to press the button for me because and he got really fed up with me. I was like, I'll give you some chocolate, just like do it.
Bribery gets you
He can go
everywhere.
on the iPad because I like to keep him away from that.
Yeah,
the iPad. Children
yeah.
are very different after they've been on iPad. Anyway, so fine, and then he came to visit. So he's off following lots of other wonderful creative paths, and he's got big projects underway separately from me. He's got lots going on. He's an incredible human being. He's very straight talking, and I love that about him.
Yeah, me too.
And he'll call bullshit, and I
love it.
Love it. But he does it in a way that is, you don't feel attacked.
Yeah. Oh, that's a skill.
Well, I think it's because he's had to deal with like all these different.
Of course. I mean, they're the biggest names ever.
Yeah, and he's had to let them know when things weren't working and stuff like that. So
Fabulous.
he's very good at doing that. Anyway, part of it is you make the main painting, but then you do all this background imagery.
Yeah.
And because I cannot climb up, usually you'd have the canvas flat on the floor, you'd have a camera. I couldn't do it that way, so we had to have the camera like there, and then you've got the canvas there. That limits what you can do because you can't leave. Say with Scarlett, she would take pictures of World War One people,
yes,
soldiers, and then she'd put it on the canvas and move it around.
Got
but of course, it's going to drop down because So he came and visited, and he just set up a thing on my desk just for that. He was like, "We'll just sort this out. You need to get on with it now, Carly.
Yes,
like you just need to get on with it. Otherwise, we're not going to do the project, basically." So he set it all up for me to do on my phone. I now upload it to a OneDrive, and I have gotten incredible. Probably what would have taken me a year, I got done in 2 weeks, and it was incredible. And I took these photos because I just follow my nose of both found and through family of people right back when photos were first taken, right?
Wow.
So all the way back, and then I put them on like green paper so he can play with them, but then I also put colors on them. I then started dissolving the faces away on them, and I'm taking the shots, and I was just so moved by all these lives were so significant, they meant so much, and they're not here anymore. They're not here. It goes so fast.
It goes so fast.
And the chances of us being here, not only like statistically, but also, you know, your parents meeting, let alone them both being alive in order to meet and
It's
like
a
each other.
miracle.
It's absolutely shocking. The things, when you think about it's impossible. We won the lottery, right?
Yeah, we
We've
have.
it
It is
doesn't.
a miracle. I think when you start thinking about the science, the chances, the
Your
statistics,
brain can't
you
even,
can't
no.
process it.
It's the chances of us being here when all the humans that could possibly have been, and yet here we are, and it's thanks to our ancestors. And from that point of view, I feel like, to a degree, and this is just my point of view, we have a responsibility to them,
Yes, we
even
do.
to
Yes,
take
we do.
responsibilities for the fact that we get to be here alive right now.
I agree
You know,
entirely. From so many different angles, you can have that conversation. To being grateful, but also just the epigenetics, the genetic expression.
oh, epigenetic, yeah.
What a field, and everything's so magical.
Everything is, but until you know that, you don't know that. You
Correct.
can't go around the storm. You've got to go into the
Yeah,
eye of
you
the
do,
storm.
and it's only you can. I truly believe. I'm glad you said that, because I truly believe that you cannot feel the magic without feeling deep pain.
There is darkness in my work.
Yeah,
There has to be. In order
yeah,
there for it to be light, there is a longing that
but
you've got
that's
to.
where you feel it.
It's human experience.
Yeah,
This is, so with Mark, to take it back to him a moment, he was just really keen on what could be felt beyond the painting.
yeah,
What could one experience that is not normally possible through looking at a painting on a wall.
yeah.
And whilst I may be someone that has had people cry in front of my work, it's not an easy, not that I'm looking for people to cry, but you want an experience, you want them to embody an
You
experience.
want them to
They want to feel,
feel.
I love Bruce Springsteen. I've seen him
Yeah,
all over the world, and I come away and I'm a different person, at least for a
yeah,
little while,
yeah.
off the back of his visionary approach to music and
If
who
you're
he
listening,
is.
Bruce, give her a
Bruce,
call.
he waved at me once.
Did
Yeah,
he?
I was like 7. I'm pretty sure I'm not making this up. I can't guarantee that I'm not, if I'm being honest. But you know what it's like.
Brilliant. I can't guarantee this isn't just in my head, but I'm going to believe it
Well, I
anyway.
think I was like 7 or 8, and I went to a concert and I couldn't see, so they let me stand up on some steps, so I stood out. And I'm pretty sure
He
gave it.
waved.
I'm pretty sure he did.
Bruce, he'll definitely be in touch after this. Take her out
Can
for
you
lunch.
imagine? Life would be so surreal if Bruce Springsteen showed up.
Well, you
Crikey.
never know who's listening.
You never know. Bruce, though, without going off on a tangent, what a man.
What a guy.
What a guy.
Like
What-
I mean, is there much you can say without just saying what a guy?
when he leaves this planet, honestly,
The legacy of just
oh my God.
that's what you were saying though. These
But
people.
his music, when you really listen to the words,
Yes.
they are really exploring what it is to be human
Yeah.
at a very fundamental level.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's deeply relatable.
Yeah.
And it can be dark, actually, but it's all part of it. It's the mind that makes these things wrong, good or
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
There
You're
is no
right.
good or bad. It's just the experience you're having.
Yes.
You
Well,
know,
look, this was a lot of the conversation with Daniel Hooper, who both you and I know, is that
love Daniel.
yeah, and a lot of what I was saying to him was about light and dark, and that's why
remember
that's
listening.
why he's so powerful, because he does have these beautiful florals, and then he has this real dark, yeah.
Really, really powerful.
But that's
work.
you as well,
Yeah.
that's why people resonate.
Yeah, and what I think this work is going to allow me to do is bring out a little bit more of all the facets
Even
of that.
more.
Even more so. I want people to feel alive when they're with my work.
Yeah.
And
you do have that feeling already, I've got to say.
Well, when people have my work on their wall, like I said, it's an experience. What they're actually meeting with it is a part of themselves that they've forgotten.
Yes. Oh God, that's so beautiful.
But
Yeah.
it's so true. And
yes, it's very true.
When I talk to people before they buy it, you can explain it to people till the cows come home, and they go, right, I'm going to buy, and they buy, and then they message you and they're like, oh my God.
Yeah. I totally get
I
it.
didn't know what I was getting. And I'm like, well, I did try, and I don't feel egotistical about it, because like I told you, my experience of it is that I am no more important in a way than the paintbrush.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm
Yeah.
just something's traveling through me.
You can't help. It's like a spiritual experience. You can't help it.
Yeah,
It's
and I feel like, you know, if it doesn't come through me, it will come through someone else. It's impersonal. You know, it's really impersonal. And I feel like it's come to me, it's chosen me, it's knocked on my door, and I've got a responsibility. I feel really strongly about that. I feel really, really, I have a responsibility to support people in finding their own freedom. That's my,
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. That is, and that comes from your the start of your life was very in between life and death.
it was.
And so from that point, just because I really want to, that what you've said there is so important. That point of your beginning here on earth is then the fight to be included, to fit in, to be let in,
Yeah,
to be taken seriously.
yeah,
And for you to be able to say, actually, my responsibility is to help other people discover their own
yeah.
freedom. It's just so profound, Carly, isn't it?
I mean, I guess so. It's just where it's
It's
how
just, but you can't feel that
no,
as much.
because it's just where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And I've done the work around being let. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't pop up, but I've done the work around trying to be let in, because look, there's different versions of success. Some people don't
Yeah.
want to make millions of pounds.
Yeah.
Some people just want to be accepted by their family. The whole
Yeah.
world loves them, but they're not a prophet in their own home.
Yeah, you're
You
right.
know, some people want respect. My idea of success was to be let in. Now that is not alive. That is based on a past experience. So the job at hand is to ask yourself, in response to what you just said, not what am I fighting against, but what am I for?
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
What are you for?
Yeah, what's the
What's the
purpose?
purpose? What are you
That's where
for?
people are lost when they don't know what their purpose is.
No, and it's okay not to know. Confusion is not knowing and thinking you should.
Yeah, you're
It's
right.
okay not to know. We are meaning making machines.
Yeah.
It's not the situation we're having a problem with. It's the thoughts about the situation.
It's the labels that have been applied to those memories that are
Yes,
blocking it, I
exactly.
think.
And those thoughts, like I said, they're not even ours. They're our
Yeah.
parents. They're our,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
all of that
It's
stuff.
the
It's
Matrix.
the Matrix.
Yeah.
And I think what I want to do with Mark is really explode that out. And Mark wants to too. And Mark, you know, together we're a team. Like he's incredible. He's so grounded and he's so articulate. Um, and he wants to experiment. He wants to see what we can make, and he gets where I'm coming from.
He's a true artist as well.
He's an absolute true artist.
Yeah.
Though, okay, it was music. The creativity involved
Yeah.
for him was huge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was
And those
huge.
artists that, like I said, Della Soul, Public Enemy, I believe, was one of them as well. These were groundbreaking
He was
artists.
visionary
He was visionary.
in his ability
Exactly.
to find. He wanted the standard to
Yeah.
remain, because they already had the Bob Marley and
Yeah.
U2 on the books, which he wasn't managing as such, but they
Yeah.
were in the company. He wanted to find new, fresh energy that was going to align with.
And he did. I mean, he really that they were culture changing people.
Yeah, they shifted people's
They
consciousness.
did. They did. And that's, I mean, as soon as I saw those messages, because we wanted to include Mark and your project in the podcast, I was like, I have to speak to this
You're
man.
going to have to interview
I've got
him.
to have to interview. I mean, he might say no. I would be
I
willing
think
to
he's pretty up
travel.
for it
I
because
would
he wants to
love
get the
to.
message out.
More so because you see, and I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't know his name before you mentioned him today.
He's not a social media guy.
He's
You
not a
won't
social media guy.
He's on Instagram, but it's not a big.
It's not a big thing.
He's not a big name on there. He's not loads of followers because it's not his thing.
But the gift is in his story.
Yes.
And actually, you say everyone's got to have a story, and actually, it's out that consciousness. That's how we connect. So as I was looking at what he's achieved and that vision that he created, and that profound effect that he's had on the culture,
Right.
I was like, people will really get a lot from listening to. If nobody else does, I will.
Yeah, because he's been through so, and what I love about him, and what I remember when I met him at Washington Green, and he played me one of the, because what's going to happen, just for clarity,
Yeah.
is with what we're doing, is when you're in front of one of my paintings.
Yes, please
Yeah,
explain.
because
Yeah.
otherwise there's a missing component
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
what does this mean? You'll have a headset put on, and it's important to explain this bit, and you'll have an iPad or something, and suddenly you'll hold it up and the painting will start moving, and there'll be music, and it will tell a story.
Yeah.
And that all sounds lovely, but but the power of music, because my brother works in music,
Oh,
he's a really big
wow.
player in the field of creating products for, like, a lot of producers use his technology.
Wow,
He's a
amazing.
really big name in his field, yeah.
Wow.
And so I really understand. And to me, I know I'm jumping around, my brain does.
Mine too, so we're
Yeah,
good.
he is reaching into the deeply felt, and it reminds me of my deeply felt in art. It's hard to
Yes.
explain, but his is music,
Yeah.
and he runs Slate and Ash, and he's gone to parties in New York, and people have been like, "Oh my god, you're from Slate and Ash, you're Simon
So he's
Ashdown
got
from."
that, like, again, cultural.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he's been very successful, and he didn't go to college and had a, and
Love that,
younger
by the
brother.
way.
I learned to walk because of him, because
Oh,
I'd gone to a special needs school where people generally were a lot more disabled than me. There was no motivation to learn to walk.
yeah.
So I was like 5 years old, and he was basically trying to walk to whatever he was, and he was getting a lot of attention for it. And I thought, that's interesting. So there's video footage of him toddling along, and me in the background holding on to, like, tables and stuff, trying to walk because he was getting this attention for walking. So it's
Wow.
because of him that I learned to walk. Yeah,
That is
sure I
amazing.
would have done eventually, but yeah,
But it just, well, he
I was
motivated you.
I had no motivation. There was the context I was in was I was more able-bodied than most of the people there,
Yes.
so there was no need.
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's just so much to you. And
Yeah.
we haven't even really peeled back any layers yet. I mean, I know we have, but I
You'd
know
love
there's
my
so many.
brother too. He's got a whole
Get him
yeah,
on.
I know, he's got his
Get him
own.
on. I'll
He's
have
got
your
his
whole
own.
family on.
Yeah, he's got his own. He's got, yeah, 2 kids and stuff, and a lot. He's been unbelievable. I mean, his company. Not that it's about, but he's worth millions. I mean, really, really
Which, but
successful.
the story, even before we know much about your brother there, and it's inspiring to hear these little elements of,
Yeah.
these extra elements, is that he didn't go to college.
No, he didn't.
There's not that classic,
He didn't go to uni. He
didn't
did
go
a
to,
year at college and then left, I think.
and
Yeah.
then went off and did something phenomenal all by himself. And that
He did the
shows you,
work.
yeah, you
Yeah.
should do the
Do
work.
the work, not only on himself, but also he went out and he met people.
Yeah.
And what he did, which is what I struggled with, when I was faced with opportunities that seemed safe, I would take them because I would listen to my dad's thoughts.
Yes. Whereas he was more sort of wild and
Yeah,
free.
yeah, and he was willing to trust the process a lot more.
I
And
love that.
he's met with Bjork. He's done, he's done all sorts. Yeah,
Yeah. See, that was a mouth open for the people listening.
yeah,
My
yeah,
jaw dropped then.
yeah. I don't think they ended up working together. Maybe they
But he
will one
still
day.
was in the presence of this
Yeah,
great human.
yeah, exactly, which was wonderful. And he's done all sorts, and he's met some big names in the world of music. And he basically makes, I don't know what you'd call that, but like technical.
Yeah, that's like so we're pointing towards the deck, the sound deck where we
So
record,
it's like these boxes basically, and they make these incredible sounds.
so they can add it to the
Yeah,
studio
but
and bring.
he travels around the world getting musicians to play for him, to go into the technology. And it's within the world of that world he's really well known because the quality of what they're making. And I never really understood what he was doing. I never really. And then one day he sent me a video of like an advertisement for what they do, and I listened to it, and the quality of the music was so moving, and what you could do with it, the fact that it's not cheap stuff to buy, but all these people all over the world could buy this product and make something so individual out of what he was offering. You're not going to sound like anyone else with his product.
That's
I just was I moved to tears by what he was able to create and the power of it. Yeah, and
It's amazing that you both have that effect on people. Like he had
I
that
don't know
effect
what
on
that
you,
is.
and
Yeah.
but you've both got. There is something.
He said to me, I mean, his compliment on me is, I really like the way you draw hair.
Not a man of words. Then I like the way you draw
Yeah,
hair.
but no, generally, he's done coaching as well, and
Wow.
I look to him for vision quite a lot. I will rig him and be like, look, I'm struggling with this. What do you think? And he'll sometimes leave me jaw dropped, and I'm in the studio and I've rang him for a nice chat, and then I can't do any work for the rest of the day.
Because he's literally just gone boom.
Yeah, and he's dropped into something that I've not processed, or so, like, and he hasn't meant to. We're just having a nice chat.
That's so. I mean, again, so much power in in your experiences, even just with your brother there,
No.
that there's so much energy.
Yeah.
But actually, this is what the next phase is all about, with the combination of the art and the sound.
It's hard to put into words, but the power of music.
Yeah.
If you watch any horror film, even,
Yes.
or any romance film, or anything moving, even when you listen to podcasts, when they
Yeah.
put that music over
Yeah.
what someone's showing a profound,
Yeah.
the shift that's created because there's this beautiful
B
bit of music
music,
laid
yeah.
it. And there's a part of the brain, and this is where I don't know the science, but I understand the basics, is that there's a part of the brain that only really gets access through music.
Music, yeah. Yeah.
It's an incredible source for transformation.
Yes.
Incredible.
It is. And I think that's why we were talking about sound bowls and sound baths earlier, how the brain resonates with that sound, that you can't science it up too much. You have
No.
to experience it. I think
You're-
that's
we can only point in this conversation.
yes, we can, yeah.
But the mere fact that I can sit here and go, contextually we can only point, is helpful, because it helps direct people a little bit
It
more
does.
to just be that clear about it as
Yeah,
well.
it does.
But ultimately you want, I hate the word but, and ultimately you want an experience. And so, like, going back, when I'm sitting in my studio painting and I'm listening to your podcast, and maybe the other rooms are too, because I've got you on really loud in my studio while I'm doing my augmented reality or whatever I'm doing, and these people that you're interviewing from such different walks of life,
Yeah.
that I'm seeing myself in them,
Yes.
it's so powerful.
Yeah. Especially coming from you. I mean, I say that to everybody, I suppose, because I see so much beauty in so many people. And then when they share something like that with me, it's like, wow, like.
But what else is there to do? Like, you're and it may change. Like, the thing is with living from vision, which is living from a life not based on your past,
Yeah.
but based on what you're for.
Yeah.
Which is a journey to get to, and actually involves really embracing and looking at your past
Yes.
and being responsible for it, and
Yeah.
actually going backwards to go forward.
Yeah.
When you can actually do all of that, what else is there to do? I mean, damn, we're gonna die. What else is
Exactly.
there to do?
It's the journey to death, and what you do along that journey will ultimately decide how you feel on that last breath.
Make death your ally.
Yeah, definitely.
Because suddenly life gets very sharper when you realize how close it is, actually.
And that's why I referenced earlier the bit where I had the general anaesthetic in it, and I realised it didn't matter that I wasn't here.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that made me want to live more. Like, it won't matter in
It
the
won't
end.
matter in the end. It honestly won't matter. In about 4 generations, no one will know we was.
Yeah, it won't matter.
It won't. And
What matters is now.
And you can look at that like, I think what happens sometimes to people is when I realised that I could let go of the fight to be let in. What I got was, imagine, like my coach was saying, imagine just you've been let in, Carly. It's done. You've been let in. Like, that's it now, you're in. I've been let in left, right and centre, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But really,
accept that you've been let in.
What's left? And I went to this sense of a void, first of all, of what's the point? And he was like, you're in, what's the point now, Carly?
Yeah.
That's not, what's beyond it is actually just freedom to be.
Yes.
Freedom to be.
Exactly as you are in that moment.
People, what they're fundamentally looking for is a couple of things: freedom to be, and feeling seen.
Being seen and being heard, or both, the same thing, really, I think is, I talked about breath being a life force, but I think really if you're breathing but you don't feel seen, that's where the pain really,
Yeah.
But actually that's ego as well.
Yeah, it is.
And if you see yourself and feel yourself and understand that you don't have to know all the answers, you've just got to be.
It's trusting that.
It's
Trusting
trusting
yourself,
it.
which I think it's also owning, if you don't trust yourself, owning, like, let's not jump to trusting yourself. Let's deal with you where you are.
Accountability.
For where you are.
Yeah.
Because that's where your freedom lay.
And wherever that is, like, do you know what? I say this all the time, to people all the time. Why do you think it's not okay to be, what you perceive to be not enough? Why do you think that's not okay? Like,
Yeah.
really work it out. And what you said earlier, you said something about, well, most people really, the fear is being rejected.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that that's difficult and painful for people is because if they're rejected in a very, again, go back to survival, in a very primitive way, if you're rejected, you're at the back of the pack. If you're at
Right.
the back of the pack, you're going to be caught first by the predator
And you're going to die.
and you're going to die.
And it goes back to that.
And that's why when you said make death your ally, it makes so much sense. Like, don't worry about death, worry about life.
Exactly. And to do that, you need to make death your ally.
Yeah, you
it's
do.
the only way to do it,
Yeah.
really. And I feel so strongly about what's possible beyond the story.
Yes.
Like living beyond the story, having a story, but not coming from the story into the story.
Yeah.
But coming from a space of connection.
Yeah.
And then dealing, like, you're in life. You've got a deck of cards. You're on the Monopoly board. You're in the game.
Yeah.
You're in the game of life.
You've been let in.
You've been let in. You've got to play the game. So play the game, but where are you going to play the game from?
Yeah.
That's the main thing. And the other big thing I had to deal with was being a self-appointed sheriff. That was another big thing for me. I will chase you down the road if I think you're wrong. That's what I would do. Because coming from a background where I remember my mum would have to come into school because they couldn't get me out the toilets because I'd locked myself in the toilets, because when I went to the secondary school there was a special needs unit attached called the unit, and there was loads of things you weren't allowed to do that the other children were allowed to do, and I just got so angry. And she'd come into school and I realised when I'm going along on my scooter through central London at 8 miles an hour on my mobility scooter and someone's getting cross with me, and then I'm telling them, like, I'm legally allowed. I'm not really talking to them. I'm talking to the lady back when I was 15 years old telling me that I couldn't go to my friend's house at lunchtime. I was this self-appointed sheriff because everybody to a degree is righteous. Everybody thinks they're right. The difference between me and a lot of people is I need to let you know you're wrong.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And seeing that just allowed me, what would happen is, and the problem would also be, which complicated matters, is occasionally, quite often, I'd be right in what I was seeing.
Yeah.
But the distinction here is, do I have a choice? When I'm in that moment of something. So there was a guy that lived near us, and he was a drug dealer. He had his ankle bracelet and whatever. And I remember, like, he was dating one of the daughters of this. Anyway, I went round the mum's house. I was like, your son, the dealing, I don't want it nearby. Like, I just go straight round.
Yeah.
And then so when he used to see me walking down the street, he would just start, like, and he's been done for GBH, all sorts. He would stand there glaring at me, and I'd just stop and go, I'm ready. Like, my energy is like, and you could literally knock me either by going like that, but my energy is like, I'm ready for a fight. Like, I will not be told no.
Yeah.
I can feel the energy of it coming up.
Yeah, I can feel it.
But the thing is with that is having a choice.
Yes.
And being able to either choose to come from reaction or choose not to. Because some causes are worth fighting.
And some aren't.
And some aren't. And know when you're coming from a dead energy, past energy. And as I share these experiences, so maybe someone's driven badly in the road and almost run me over, and because it's London, nobody ever really gets that far ahead, and I've chased them down and I've knocked on their window and gone, what are you doing? To in that moment get, oh my goodness, it's not about you.
Yes.
It's not about you. And get, like, literally, it's the experience that has you change your behavior.
Yes.
But you've got to start by looking. Just start by looking. You're not going to get the experience straight away.
No, you're not. You have to repeat until you're ready to learn.
Oh, you feel like it goes on forever as well.
You do. At the time, it just feels never ending. But, you know, I can resonate so much with that. And I said this to someone on a session the other day, a lady who got into quite a dangerous situation where she confronted somebody who was being a problem. And she was like, I don't know why I do this, because if you were to meet her, you wouldn't think in a million years that she would have that energy about her. She was ashamed of it. She said, I haven't really told anybody because they would worry too much and whatever. And she said, why do I do it, Ella? And I said, I think it's because at some point in your life you feel like you didn't matter and you felt like nobody listened. So now when there's a problem and you feel like no one's got your back, you're going to make them listen.
You're going to make them listen, and you're not really dealing with that moment.
You're
what's appropriate for that moment.
You're right.
You're fighting the wrong fight.
Yeah,
really.
And that's maladaptive, but you can't understand that until you, like you say, you have that experience, and then be willing to explore that experience.
Explore it, and it gives you choices.
Yes.
I may choose to let that person know they drove badly, but I may not. Like, I've got a choice.
Yes, that's so powerful,
It's
that
so,
word. Yeah, the word choice, it unlocks a lot.
because you're not coming from all the insecurities of the past
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
But it takes doing the work. I'm going to be training as a coach actually soon, so I'm going to be because I'm not fully qualified in anything. And
But you could actually do it already, because you could say, I'm not fully qualified, but this is my life experience. This is my training.
so I'll tell you briefly. I got invited by a guy called Will Pike, who also I think you'd love to
Yes,
interview.
yes.
He was in the Mumbai. I don't want to tell his story for him, so I'll keep it basic. He
Yeah.
was in the Mumbai bombings. He was in the hotel. Him and his girlfriend at the time decided they thought they was going to die. They decided to get all the bits of fabric and tie knots and climb out the window. They did a tug of war. They thought it would all be fine. He goes out first, and before you know it, he can hear the knots undoing. He wakes up in hospital, paralyzed from the waist down. So
Yeah.
he's in his 20s. And so he does a lot of public speaking on disability
Yes.
awareness, because it was a shock for him to go from being able-bodied.
Well, he's got both experiences. Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, I love Will, and he's incredibly articulate, and he understands the human experience too. He's amazing. But he got me on. We were neighbours, and he invited me to be part of a disability task force.
Yeah.
Usually I'm not, because I'm fighting to be let in. I don't really know disabled people, because
Yeah.
I'm trying to, in honest, not be around many disabled people, because I'm feeling like I'm trying to be let in
By the rest of society.
Yeah, exactly. But Will and I became really good friends, and there's a consultancy agency called Hobbs Consultancy, and they got me in, and we did some great work. And then they contacted me and they said, look, we can see that you can offer so much more.
1 trillion percent.
Right, could we take you on as a coach? Maybe you could do some consultancies in companies. They got me some public speaking work as well, but it was all around disability, but I'd always bring the other elements
Yes.
in. So I had a meeting with them, and they were like, right, we'll take you on. If you could just send across your qualifications and I have to have it with them, because they've got it on their website. That I can't remember what the qualification is exactly off the top of my head, but it's the governing coaches
Yeah.
board. Anyway,
ICH.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So basically, they couldn't take me on as a coach
Yeah.
because of that, and I respect that. But it made me think, you know what? Why not train? And I looked at different options, and some of them you can train in 6 months. And I found one though that was a year's training, and I wasn't going to do it because it was a year. And I had my conversation about being behind and all of
Yeah.
that. But actually, I so resonated with them, and they were like quite clear with me that they felt like possibly I wasn't going to learn that much new with them.
Right.
And I said, well, no, because you're going to be. I like the idea of going into corporations and businesses.
Yes.
I don't understand that world,
Yeah.
actually. And
Is this like an executive coaching course?
Yeah. And
I think I know who it is, with you saying it being a year, because they're a good one. If it's the one I'm thinking
they
of.
were recommended. I'm
Yeah.
happy to say.
Yeah. Who are they?
It's oh God, it's gone out of my head. This is the thing with
Yeah, you said about the names.
executive coaching. I can't remember.
Okay, something. I know who they are. I know who they are. We can't remember their name right now, but
Because
I
my
know who
brain
they
is
are.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll remember it later.
Yeah.
I think it's something like Executive Coaching Academy.
It is something like that. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah,
Is this word executive is in the title?
Yeah, they're brilliant. The lady Kate that I spoke to, like, just really fantastic. I really resonated with them in a way that I didn't resonate with other.
Yes.
So I'm going to train with them, and I'm going to see where it takes me. And I've got the work with Mark as well, and I see a world opening up beyond, including and transcending the artwork. And I don't know what that looks like, and I'm actually okay with not knowing what that looks like, because that's alive. And I'm just following my nose, really, and just a step ahead. So that training starts in April, and I'm looking forward to it.
There's so much. What's interesting about what you've just said, when we look at the augmented reality stuff and the work that you're going to do with the coaching, there's so much in the future that's exciting. But I think what really matters about that is the intention, and how the intention makes you feel alive now.
Yes.
And not putting too much of an expectation on what happens next, which is exactly what you've just said. And I say that to people all the time. They say, I remember having this conversation with someone about my own training, which I'm doing through the Complementary Therapists Association, just because I have a complementary therapy clinic and I wanted to keep it all aligned for people that have an existing qualification, and to teach them a method. And I remember saying to someone, I'm doing this, and I needed to do the business coaching certification alongside that so that I can business coach the
Yes.
people that come through it, so I can help them make money at the end of it. And someone said to me, but Ella, because I was doing this podcast, I was doing my own work, and running the clinic, and they said, but you're doing too much. What if you die? And I was like, but I'll die
Yeah.
knowing that this journey is so exciting. I'm feeling that excitement right
Right.
now.
It's alive.
It's alive. So it doesn't matter what happens next.
No.
I'm alive now, thank you.
Yeah, if it doesn't come to fruition, fine. Because it's not,
It's about feeling alive.
It's about when you are able to let go and move through and find peace with your past.
Yes.
And the things that you've been through, something else opens up, and
It's so,
and a connection to life that until you experience it, and you're falling out of it,
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
like I said, there is no word that's a particular way. There's a way of being in the world. It's like suddenly life will just have things show up. It's so funny, like the serendipity of life.
Oh,
we
it's
don't
amazing.
need to make meaning out of the serendipity. It
No,
just
it's
is.
just, yeah, it just is.
And it does suddenly life.
I love that. It just is.
It just is. And things that you thought were unimaginable are suddenly your reality.
Well, this is the augmented reality stuff. You mentioned adding the sound, but we must add just very quickly that you can use a phone or an iPad,
Right.
hold it up to the painting with your headset on,
Yeah.
and that painting
Come to life.
comes to life through an iPad
Yeah.
or a phone
Yeah.
and your headset.
And you can move around it and it'll move with
It will
you.
move with you. I can't, that in itself, even the thought of it, again, brings me this whoosh feeling inside.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. And that's where everything is about what you feel now. It's the feeling in the body, not the thought of the mind. And that's why I love that analogy you used earlier about putting the mind in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
Observe
It's
it.
there if you want it.
It's there if you want it.
Yeah.
Don't completely disconnect.
Yeah.
It's there with you, but really feel. So listen to the mind, feel, and move with that.
And know that the way we get stuck is we have these thoughts, and then we have these feelings, and we combine them together.
Yeah.
And the job is to see the thoughts and be with the feelings.
Yeah, you're right. And like you say, it's the rainbow. They're separate, but it blends.
But it blends together. And I kind of want to remind people of their own humanness and their own humanity and their own inner God, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
In the artwork.
Yeah.
They are more. You are more powerful and incredible than you can possibly realize, and we'll never know the extent, truthfully, of what we could be whilst we live. But we keep going, and we keep opening to, and it's only when we get that last moment on our deathbed, even me will be like, God, I'm sure I could have, because you're better to have tried and failed. And it's such a cliche thing to say, but at least then
no regrets,
because it's so much worse.
Yeah, it is.
The never knowing. It's better to have failed, really.
And there's beauty in failure, actually, because you learn so much more about yourself.
Failure is really important.
It is
part of the journey.
Yeah.
Look at all the different things I've been through, and how I was told I couldn't and wouldn't, and etc. But where would I be now? How would I be able to, if I'd lived, and not that that's bad either, because everyone's different, an ultra pleasant life? What I don't know if I'd be offering quite as much.
Toxic perfectionism.
Yes.
Toxic perfectionism. It makes it too. If something's too perfect, then the smallest of things become a problem.
Yes.
Whereas when you go to the darkest of the dark, you find elements of yourself which actually are a life force.
Shadow side.
The shadow side, which is again Carl Jung.
Yeah.
The shadow self, that collective shadow, the personal shadow, it's all necessary to pay attention to.
It's all necessary, and also it's about bringing it to light. It's about bringing the unconscious into consciousness and not making ourselves wrong for our experiences and how we feel about things, but to actually be with them.
And also applying that to your body as well. For you as a person that's considered disabled in this society, understanding that. I remember talking to a girl about her body, and she wasn't a big girl at all, actually. She was probably similar size to me. And I showed her a picture of a girl sitting down in beautiful matching underwear.
Yeah.
And when she was sitting down, she had a little bit of a belly and there was some folds and stretch marks and cellulite, and she looked beautiful. The only thing that wasn't completely natural was the fact that she had makeup on.
Right.
She'd done her hair and makeup, but the rest of her, she was pretty underwear, sitting with the natural folds of her skin and a bit of cellulite and stretch marks. And I said to this girl, look at this photo and tell me if you see the beauty. And she said, no, I don't. When I looked at that photo, I saw nothing but just the most gorgeous, soft, I could imagine the touch of her skin and how she would feel to touch. And I realized that I was admiring my own body.
Yes.
And that moment was, you can't see that yet because you can't see your own body.
But you just saw from it, like, what the work you'd done on yourself.
The work I'd done myself. And I was like, I get a high five myself in my head at that moment. Like, oh,
Yes.
wow, I'm really comfortable with my body. And I didn't even know it until now.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
Though, to get
And
those
that's what you were
moments?
saying about the art.
Yeah.
You see yourself in the art. And I hadn't realised that I was really comfortable with my body. Now, don't get me wrong. You say you fall in and out of it. And there are moments when I go, oh, I wish I was a thinner. I wish I was. And then I'm like, oh, no, actually, I'm really comfortable with my body. Like, I don't care.
It's just your mind coming in doing what the
Exactly.
mind does.
It's where the mind in the passenger seat has got into the driving seat
get
again.
in sometimes.
Yeah.
It's if you think you spend your whole life with the, there's a point when we come into the world and it's just a mesh of experience.
Yeah.
But eventually, over time, we create a me.
Yeah.
That's over here, and it's almost like there's a little person living in our heads.
Yeah, it is.
And we're looking out into the world, and it's this separate thing. And, and it's not proprioceptive. Like, it doesn't know it's making it up. It doesn't understand, that it's not like. I don't know. A really good example might be if I was walking down the street and say somebody was looking at me. I might think, well, they're looking at my disability. I might be walking down the street, Rivers in a buggy, a bit younger, say, and I might think, oh, they're looking at me because of my disability. That's why they're looking at me. And then I'm not part of it. I'm different. But in that woman's world, maybe she's lost a grandchild.
Yes, you're so
and she's
right.
seeing the person in the buggy and me, and she's going, "Oh wow!"
Yeah.
And also maybe she is seeing the disability, but it doesn't matter.
Well, she will do because I see it, but
Yeah,
it doesn't mean I see it as less.
But it's me making the meaning.
Yeah, it's you making the meaning.
Yeah.
So I always say this about colour, about disability. Of course, if someone is disabled and they might have it, or even if they've got a birthmark on their face, you will see the disability. That in itself isn't the problem. It's exactly what you just said.
Relationship to it.
It's the relationship.
Yeah.
I do not see a disability as from my perspective, as something that is less than me.
No.
It's when someone sees you as less than themselves. And in fact, when they're doing that, it's not that you are less than them. It's that they are insecure in themselves.
And that's the truth of the matter.
That's the truth.
That's the big.
That is the big. And you've got to understand that when you are judging someone and you are putting them down in your mind and making them feel small, it's because you feel small. A part of you has come forward to protect your own victim, or because you might have been bullied or you might have been made to feel like you're not enough. So a part comes out and says, I'm going to bully you now because that makes me feel powerful.
Right.
I'm going to look at you as though you're less than because that makes me feel powerful.
Because it's bringing up an insecurity in you that you've not looked
exactly.
at.
And all they're doing is protecting their victim. Because they haven't actually dealt with the work. They haven't dealt with the work. They haven't done that little bit of, oh, actually, it's okay to be the victim. There's no shame in that. They're carrying shame.
So
if I see,
shame's such a big,
it's the biggest one.
Brené Brown.
Yeah, exactly.
So well
Brené, what a wonderful, wonderful game changer she is.
Yeah, incredible.
And again, but that's based on the shadows. That's based on Carl Jung.
It's so important to look at the shadow.
It's so important.
Do the work. I remember with my relationship with John, we did Imago couples therapy.
Yeah.
Do it whether you've got problems or not.
Why not?
Because actually it's so deep just to really look at the closeness that gets formed off the back of that.
Yeah.
Just in whatever capacity.
Yeah.
Constellation workshops. I don't know if you've heard of those.
Yes. Powerful work. Even the stuff that's considered a bit woo-woo. Is very, very Reiki, crystals, these things that people go,
I don't get.
Yeah.
Reiki. Love a bit of Moldavite. I remember so I did my first constellation workshop and then I wanted John to go along, and John is like the opposite of me. He's done a lot of work too, but he's very rational.
Yes.
He's so rational, that he doesn't believe in ghosts or this or that, or whatever. Like so I said, go and do go and do a constellation workshop, John. And he was like, it sounds a bit woo-woo to me, Carly. But he went as an issue holder, and he went along. But within that, you can go and you can be a representative. And I don't know how much people know about constellation work, but you basically are in a big circle. You take your issue. You don't share a lot about your issue, but the facilitator will pick people to represent the issues. It could be parents, it often is, but then it could be experiences like fear, anger, all that stuff. And then you get them to share the different parts, and usually something gets exposed that wasn't known.
Yes.
So the issue gets seen for what it really is,
Yes.
in a way that you couldn't have comprehended.
Yes.
And often there's an issue from 20 years ago that is causing the problem
Yes.
right now, and it all comes out. It's like having your diary read.
Yeah, all of this stuff is so, again, it goes to the parts work, it goes to the shadows work, it goes to the unconscious.
And it goes really deep.
Yeah.
So he went along and he represented somebody's I don't know what it was, somebody's brother, and he was rocking backwards and forwards, and he just and apparently they'd wanted to commit suicide or something. That's what had happened.
Wow.
And they had been rocking, and he was there and he came back and he went, okay,
he got it.
This is, and he's been doing it since.
Wow.
And he's also quite gifted in that way. And
Yeah.
then he would downplay it in a way, whereas my brother's like, let's go out there, let's do it.
Yeah.
John's a bit more reserved, but he's very skilled in many areas.
Self-protection though, probably.
Yeah. I don't want to talk on behalf of John, because that's his his world, but yeah, we're the opposites of each other.
Yes.
And so yeah, he's much more kind of structured, and will take his time over sharing his emotions, all of those things. Whereas I'm a bit more, let's let it out.
Yeah.
Now. So yeah, but we're a good yin yang for each other.
Well, it's essential, isn't it?
It's so essential. And then Rivers, I feel like I learned so much from him. I'm here to teach him the basics of life, but sometimes he comes out with things, and I'm wow.
They humble you, don't they?
They do, because there's that poem, I can't remember who it's by, but it's called, you can look it up online, anyone. Your children are not your children.
I love that.
You know it?
Yeah, I couldn't say it word for word, but I remember seeing it once, and it resonated so highly with me.
It's like, they live in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams.
I mean, gosh.
Yeah.
I always say my daughter is from my body, but she's a gift and she will leave.
She doesn't own you.
Yeah.
You don't own her. You're just here to guide her.
That's right.
And something in the poem goes, life doesn't furrow for yesterday. And it is something along the lines of, the child is the bow, and you are the child is the arrow, and you are the bow.
That's right.
And God loves both type thing is the essence of it. But it's about me letting the child go forward, which is what constellation work is all
it's
about.
all about that. Yeah.
Because children, they need their parents for protection. They need their parents for safety. They keep
psychological, emotional safety.
Yeah, and sense of self, and so they will forgo themselves for their parents.
They'll abandon themselves.
And I think a lot of when people are lost as adults, for many different reasons, like I think a lot of it is little by bit, from the beginning, self-betrayal.
It is all that.
Little self-betrayals.
Yeah.
Growing up,
it is.
We portray ourselves.
Yes, we do. And I think we do that because we're trying to make sense of what's going on around us, and we haven't got the capacity to do that yet.
No, so brains are not developed.
That's right. So without that development, we have to abandon a part of ourselves to make sense of it. So in other words, for example, my parents are shouting, it's probably because of me. Maybe they wouldn't be like this if it wasn't for me. There's no more complexity than that. No. But that thought gets embedded if it's repeated,
and it really impacts a person's adult sense of self.
It does.
And it leads to all kinds of things. It leads to all kinds of mental unwellness, escapism. Yes, escapism. I mean, you will know, you've worked with so many people.
They're all escaping. They're all escaping the part of themselves that they don't even know they're holding responsible for something that wasn't their fault.
Yeah, and that's so powerful. Can you say that again? Because I think it's worth repeating. I think it's so powerful.
I do tell people this a lot, which is everybody is trying to escape a part of themselves that they hold responsible for something that was never their fault.
Bang.
Yeah.
And we don't know we're doing it.
No, we don't.
let's
It's automatic.
And it starts with a feeling maybe of incompleteness. Let's start at the beginning. You don't know why, you just don't feel right.
Yeah.
You just, and it comes out in the way you move and the way you talk and the way you hold yourself.
Yeah.
And you just have to start at the beginning. Like,
you have to go all the way, and this is where the episode with Emily Worley about the birth experience,
yes,
and
I
as you
love that
referenced
episode.
earlier,
Yeah.
she's amazing. But all the nervous system trauma and
Yeah.
all of the sort of, as you mentioned, the cranial
So,
stuff.
but she's great.
She's
She really knows her stuff.
she really, really does. She's very, very profoundly beautiful in every way. But even during the pregnancy, what was going on for the parents during the pregnancy, what's their genetic expression handed down from their
Isn't
parents?
it several, like 7 generations back it goes?
Yes.
That,
there's so much, like you talked about the ancestors,
Yeah.
there's so much
passed down.
involved.
But this is why it gets complicated, because with me and myself appointed sheriff.
Yeah.
So I've got my story, but it's in my family line on my mum's side to behave that way.
Yeah.
To be like, no, I'm not going to take your crap.
So what's going on?
So
back,
all the way back there.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's hard, because that's why it's worth doing many different types of work.
You're so right. Don't just go and talk.
No.
Explore. This is the exploration of self.
It's a playground.
Oh, it's so exciting,
isn't it? Like, just enjoy the ride, as awful as it can get.
Yeah.
Like, enjoy
I always say, think of your favourite movie, times it by 1,000,000. When you explore yourself, it's your favourite movie.
Right.
Times that by 1,000,000. If you're willing to really go there, you will have that experience.
But when you first go there, when you first let in and what's been buried, and you let out these really deep emotional experiences, it can feel like the world's going to end.
Yeah, and you do
running from it.
Yeah, and you have to. When you say let out, I mean, I do this thing with primal scream.
Wonderful.
So, but I always say to people, if you're doing this at home as a meditation, do it in your head.
Yeah.
If you feel like it's not enough, get a pillow, bury your head in that pillow, and then do the primal scream in the pillow.
Yeah.
That will remove the energy from the body.
Yes.
But you can do it as an imagination as well. So you literally have to do a particular breath work which activates.
You've got so many skills, Ella.
I just love it. It's just, I just love it. And you activate, deactivate, activate. And as you activate again, you imagine pulling all that tension and stress out of the body through your hands, as though they're the receptors, a bit like Reiki. And you imagine being somewhere open on your own. You imagine screaming it out as loud as you can for as long as you can, whatever that pain is, whatever that moment is, scream it out. And if it doesn't do it enough, get the pillow, scream into the pillow, go into it. And then at the end, write down whatever is left, whatever the remnants are.
So powerful.
It's so powerful. Because when we let it out, we have to understand what we're going to let out first, and then we let it out physically.
It can move through you.
It does.
It's like a clogged up pipe.
Yeah, it is that.
Like, you gotta,
yeah.
Because suddenly it won't run you anymore.
Yes.
Or not as much. Maybe there'll be a few more primal screams. That
you might need to do it 10 times, but often not.
Exactly. And it's about just continuing to just keep stepping forward, but also, and I think we mentioned this earlier, is doing it at your speed whilst not procrastinating.
Yeah.
But also, should I say, realizing when you've achieved, when there's been a shift in your behavior.
Yes.
When you do have more power and say,
yes.
Because I'm all about the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and what can I open at next and what can I break through next. But actually, what's there is to appreciate the shift that's been.
Yes.
Because they can be small shifts.
They can be small shifts. You're right.
But in life, it's like we talked earlier, and I don't know if it's on this or when we pre-talked. It's the small moments.
Yeah.
That are the big moments. Those little small moments.
Have you ever looked at a mirror, a cracked mirror, that's got lots of cracks, and looked at your reflection in it?
I've done, yeah.
I did that once, and I remember looking at that mirror, and I remember thinking, because at the time I felt quite broken, and I remember thinking that's actually quite beautiful, just as a piece of life. If someone took a photo of that,
it's alive.
It's alive. And I remember thinking that is actually quite beautiful. But I think I was connecting to the brokenness.
Yeah.
But actually, the imagery of it as well. There was just
a with the brokenness.
Yes. Yes.
Not making it wrong, just letting it have a voice.
Exactly. And when I had that moment, I've never really come back from that. And now, like you say, every moment, whatever that moment is, there is some beauty in it. But you said the phrase, and I've got a hypnotherapy session called this: trust the process.
Yeah.
Just trust the process, because
Go with the
once you,
ride.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything you've said today is so in line with how I think and how I teach, because I consider therapy to be teaching as
Of
well as the
course.
practical
Yeah.
elements. And I'm so glad to hear that you're going into that world more so with the coaching.
Yeah, I don't know how it looks, but I know that I know Mark's part of it. There's other people I've not mentioned that are part of what I want to create. People in the
Yeah.
business world that work with business people that do coaching, that
Yeah.
they want to bring me in. There's so much happening. I don't know where it's going, and it's not big for the sake of being big. It's just whatever's calling me, whatever the vision is, and maybe I do need to pinpoint a bit more clearly at some stage what that is. But I'm happy with not being there right now. I'm
Yeah.
okay with the blank canvas
Yeah.
and just taking what resonates
Yeah.
and trusting that,
Yeah.
despite whether it makes logical sense or not to do, because that's where the beauty is. That's
It
where the
really is.
magic.
And you are, before I met you, I felt this. And, it's after several hours of talking to you today, which has been joyous, by the way.
I've loved it. You're brilliant.
Oh, you're brilliant. And that's what I was about to say. Like, I loved you before I even met you. And then today, I've been excited with every word you've said.
Really.
Even with technical errors, I was like, it doesn't matter. It's going to be fine, because I know
Yeah.
that everything that we've said has been recorded one way or another. For those that don't know, we lost power in our machinery.
It's suddenly gone, wasn't
We're
it?
suddenly gone, and I suddenly stopped and I looked and I was like, because we'd said so much, but luckily we've got backups and backups and backups, so it'll all come together. But that fundamentally, every moment of today
Yeah.
has so far been so beautiful. You're so lovely, and I know people listening to this, they'll dive in and out of this episode. And what's great is, when you get a book, Rick Rubin said this, and I know this because one of my other guests spoke about it. Rick Rubin in his book was like, I want you to be able to open, and I wrote my book similarly, I want you to be able to open the book anywhere, and there'll be a moment. And I think this episode has that.
Hopefully.
It does. Wherever you listen, whatever point you come in at, there is a moment.
Because hopefully you'll find a piece of yourself.
Yeah.
In what's being shared. And I wanted to share, and I have to try and remember it now, there's a David Wyatt's poem, and I want to just share a section of it, which really just resonates with me so deeply. It's David Wyatt. It's What to Remember Upon Waking, and it goes something like, you are not a troubled guest on this earth. You are not an accident amidst other accidents. You were invited from a larger night than from which the one you just awoke.
That is so beautiful, isn't it? It's kind of that this episode you've just been able to say in that section of the poetry.
Yeah. And I read that at my grandfather's funeral, because it was kind of a funeral, but that's a different story. But anyway, he brought that magic. So as a child growing up, he would have the books on time, and all that stuff.
Oh wow.
And so that came from him. And even it's funny how, like, even sitting here now, this is how my granddad would hold his hand,
Wow.
and it's like, oh, he's here with me,
Yes.
So we live
on in our children, our grandchildren, our great grandchildren.
And we have a responsibility, but also not only do we have a responsibility because of our ancestors to take responsibility for our lives, however that looks for us, in whatever way we can, but also for our children.
Yes.
Because if you don't take responsibility for your life, you're going to pass your stuff onto your children.
Yeah, you do.
And eventually someone's going to have to process this.
It's so true. And actually, that's a very painful experience to think that my daughter's 16, and there's definitely been mistakes that I made early on, particularly because I mentioned before having a severe germ phobia early on, and how that limited our experiences, and even some of my more reactive behaviours at times where I've not been in my best self. But I reference this on a lot of episodes, and I say it directly to her as well. Like, you are so beautiful and so wonderful, and you are not a reflection of my negative experiences. You are a reflection of something much bigger, and you're so beautiful. I don't mean that physically, although obviously she is, but she doesn't I explained to her, although it will be part of your conditioning, you can take responsibility essentially for unblending from my negative. You don't have to carry that. You don't have to feel responsible for me. Be responsible for
But the fact
you.
that you're able to say that to her,
Yeah.
because the mere having children, we cannot.
You can't get it right
No,
100%
you can't
of the
get it right.
time.
And actually, would you want to? Because it's part of their development.
Yeah, they have to have the dark.
They have to. Letting your kids go out into the world, it's a scare in the heart and the sleeve out.
Yeah.
It's like, but out in the world, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like taking your heart and just watching it go off into the world.
Yes.
But at the same time, we can at least give them a secure attachment. Do you know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah.
An attachment style. But and also, if we're being responsible for ourselves, and also it's about when I make a mistake, I would say sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, Rivers, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Mummy was having a bad moment. Or,
Yeah.
if you're trying to do the dinner and it's mummy,
Yeah.
about sort of 30 minutes in, I'm like, oh, Rivers, what do you want? I will,
Yes.
because I'm trying to keep my balance
Yeah.
and all of
So
this
much is
stuff.
going on.
So much is going on. And then I'll go, oh, Rivers, I'm so sorry. But I'll say, can you try and see that mummy's trying to prepare food and it's not about you, but just bear with mummy a little bit. And I'm sorry, I got a bit snappy there. And I think it's acknowledging their experience.
Yeah, because he will then not have to abandon.
He won't abandon. So what I love about Rivers is he just doesn't take that much very personally because he's got a secure sense of self.
Yes.
Because when I make a mistake or I do something wrong, no matter what it is, I will come back and say, that was me, that wasn't.
That's all you have to give
That's all
them.
you have to give them.
And
I'm really
also,
sorry, it
I
wasn't
find the
me.
other thing with everyone, not just with your kids, is when they say something, because, as they get older, your child might say to you, well, you don't listen, which has been said to me, by the way. Yeah, I've been said.
Or
But,
my experience, Rivers, what does he say to me? But that's my experience, mummy.
oh, that's so cool. The fact that he says that is brilliant.
Yeah,
But
but then it's like, oh,
yeah.
you're working it.
Yeah. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, he knows.
But when your child says to you, you don't listen. If you hurt when they say that, that's good.
Yeah.
Because you recognize you can't feel something if it's not true, and it's at that point saying to them, "You're right.
You're right. You're right. Mummy made a mistake.
Yeah.
Daddy was having a bad day."
Yeah.
One of the examples I like to give is with Rivers. He left school and he was upset, and I was like, "Well, look, what's wrong?" And he said, "Well, Mummy, the teacher got really cross with me because I was trying to let her know that you were here, and she was talking to another teacher, and so I was trying to, and she told me off." And I feel so. What I did is you mirror back and you go, right, oh my goodness, and you were just trying to let her know. He was about 7 or 8. You
Just
you
reflective
mirror back,
listening.
yeah. Oh, and I bet that felt like this, and and then once he's felt, yes, mummy, like
Yeah.
and then you go, well, once it's landed for him, then you go,
Yes.
well, I can imagine because they called each other by their first names, Louise or whoever it was, whoever the teacher was at the time. It's like, well, she probably was in the middle of quite an important conversation and she didn't really register what you were doing, Rivers.
Yes.
And so because she didn't register, she responded that way, and it's not really about you, but he can hear it once he's been mirrored.
You're right. That reflective listening ability allows him to go, oh, okay, now I've been heard. I'm open to the logic that I can't apply myself.
Yes, exactly. And it
Yeah.
teaches him how to process his own experiences.
Yes.
And so he really understands. It's not that things don't bother him. He just doesn't make it mean much about him, which is great.
That's really, I mean, how old is he?
He's 9.
That's
But he's
really
always been
cool.
like that. And he has a very good read on people. He's like, oh, mummy, sometimes people are smiling, but I know they're sad. But that's because he's come from an environment where we really have worked hard.
Yeah.
We've not got it perfect.
Yeah.
But it's the good enough, good enough
Yes.
parent.
Yes.
And you cannot be perfect. In fact, trying to be perfect will ruin them.
Yeah.
Because they need boundaries. Who is it? Calaris, I can't remember her name, psychologist. She worked with Gabor Marty. She did like an event with him, and she was saying about the importance of push and pull, and them knowing there's limits.
Yes.
Knowing that when you're climbing up a mountain, you need to be able to feel the pull of the rope and know that you're safe.
Yeah.
And not say things to your kids that are not really going to happen, like we're not going to Disney World because you didn't tidy your room.
Yes.
They know that's rubbish.
Yeah, you're right.
Give them real consequences. So it isn't about it's about explaining as well. Why is this important?
Yeah.
Why? No, you need to have a bath, Rivers, because if you don't, you're going to end up dirty and no one's
Yeah.
smelling, and
Yeah.
you're not going to feel good.
Yeah.
As an example, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas when they're babies, we're like, oh, there, you don't like the water, you're mirroring. And there
Yeah.
comes an age where we just stop mirroring, you know.
Or it's the separation,
And
the
it's
unblending.
the unblending, and then you've got a child whose best friend's leaving school, and all the parents are saying, well, don't worry, you'll make new friends. And no, be with their experience.
Let them worry for a
Let them
minute.
worry. Go, oh, that must feel awful.
Yeah.
I can, you know, and let them talk through their feelings and
Yeah.
fears, and say, I would feel the same. Yes. You can
Yes.
only get to resolution when your experience has been resonated with and
Yeah,
processed.
you're right. And we don't always, and as you sort of said in so many ways, whether it's through listening to a podcast or through art or through music, you often don't see yourself until
No,
someone mirrors that in
mirrors
some
it back
way.
to
And
you.
that's the job of the parent.
That's the job of the parent. And as you
Yeah.
said, the brain doesn't fully develop till what?
21 earliest,
At
really.
earliest. Sean and I always say we just got to stay alive till 25. So Rivers is 25.
Yeah, that's
Then,
really
then he's
clever.
fine. We both got to stay alive till he's 25,
Yeah,
and then
at
we've done our
least.
job.
Yeah, no, it's
You
so
know.
it's true.
Yeah.
And actually giving him the skill set to be able to read people, to be able to read himself, he can't go wrong. And I always say to all children that I work with, because I work with quite a lot of young people, is just do your best.
Just do your best.
And that will
Well, you say that,
change
yeah.
day by day, but just do your best
Do
in
your
that
best
moment.
in the moment, and it's not about what. One thing I appreciate, you may have done this, lots of people do it, I don't understand it. I get it for back in the day, I don't understand it now. Is I have a little bit of a beef about people calling their kids good boy or good girl.
Yeah.
And I've seen some very spiritual people, you know, well, in the online forum, call their kids that, and I don't
Yeah.
understand it, because to call them good or bad is to facilitate the idea that they could be either or.
Yes.
Like, talk about their behavior. Your
Yeah.
behavior.
Be
Yes,
specific.
that behavior was really not very good,
Yeah.
Rivers.
Yeah.
But not you fundamentally.
Yeah.
I remember once I said to Rivers, because you know you're not always going to get it right, and I was annoyed with him, and I just said, "Oh, Rivers, you're so selfish."
Oh, the
Oh,
label.
oh, did he? I mean, he just lost it. He
Yeah.
just absolutely. And I was like, "What's wrong?" Because you know I'd grown up being, you know, that was
Yeah.
all the norm. And I went in, and he went, "You called me selfish," and I was like, "Rivers, I'm so sorry. No, you're the behavior. I'm so sorry. That was Mummy
Yeah.
was just angry in the moment."
Yeah.
And then he calmed down, and he was like, "Look, this wasn't about you. This was about Mummy having a moment.
Mm,
No, you're not a selfish
mm,
person. You're
mm,
fantastic,
mm.
and there's lots that we love about
I think
you."
we've all done that.
Yeah,
Like you say, it's the understanding of, because I've certainly used that you are, and then come out of it and
because you're not
said, because you're
perfect.
not perfect. That well, none of us are. And I have then said, you're right. Because she might say you don't listen or whatever. And I'll say, you're right.
Yeah,
Like, that's a fair point. You are valid to feel that.
right,
And that in itself means she doesn't have to I'm not saying she doesn't self abandon, because again, I think there is a part of the human that does that anyway.
right.
But
Degrees.
degrees of it. But it's about letting her know that, and maybe again, I've got to say this because I think this is quite an important thing to say. Sometimes we might do that too much, you know,
Yeah,
because then we can go the other way and they're like, oh, well, I'm not responsible. It's everybody else, because the
yeah.
parent's gone, it's not your fault. It's me, because you feel so guilty about
Yeah,
everything
you've
you
got it. That's
do.
a really fine
Yeah,
balance. And that's where boundaries are still really
they
important.
are.
And
Yeah.
this, you know, it's trying not to come from reaction,
Yeah.
but explaining, look, no, this needs, whatever you're doing needs to stop right now for these
Yes.
reasons. And
Yes.
we have let you know, so why are you still doing it?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying he gets away, but it's easy to fall down that path where
The
you're,
mollycoddling.
yeah, and then they don't feel safe.
Yeah, you're right.
The world isn't a safe place because
Yeah.
Mummy's wrapped me up in cotton
Cotton wool,
wool.
yeah. It's the push pull
It's
thing
the
that
push pull.
I do know the lady because I've seen her
Jennifer
speak.
Claris.
Yes. She and obviously Gabor Mate talks a lot about the
Love
mollycoddling.
Gabon.
Isn't
Yeah.
he phenomenal? But I loved his podcast with Stephen Bartlett. I didn't listen
Yeah.
to it all, but the sections I saw where he
I don't know if I've
admitted,
listened to it.
you should listen to that one, because he admitted that, you know, when something happened to him, he references the Prince Harry interview where he got slated for it. And I think Stephen Bartlett basically asks him how he dealt with that. Did he did he deal with it well? And he admits, no, I didn't. You know, I am
He's a human
human.
being, right?
Yeah. And I love that about him, that he's so profound, but he's also very human.
Yeah, exactly. And I think having people like that are able to admit their humanity is
Yes.
really important, because
Yeah.
we get such a society now is such a filtered view of, and we don't get the behind the scenes and the hard work and
No.
the challenges.
No.
But yeah, and it's like things should be just so,
Yeah.
I think it can make people feel more isolated and
It
separated.
definitely does, especially because obviously you and I have spent a long time in this world
Yeah,
where we've
been here a
studied,
while.
and yeah,
Gosh.
we've been here a while, and we've definitely explored the parts of the humanness that maybe some people just haven't ever been interested
No.
in. But when you become interested in it, you can realize that the filter really is quite dangerous for those that, you if you don't know that it's not perfect out there,
Yeah.
and you actually you are the same as everybody else, then
Yeah.
that is a very scary place to be, isn't it?
It is. Look, we're lucky to be here. It's incredible that each of us gets to live, and we are. Each individual is incredible, but no more so than anyone else.
That's
That
so
that's the
true.
truth.
We are all equal, and I know that's a bit
We don't get
cheeseball, but we are.
treated that
No,
way by
that's society.
society and
That's
all
the
the messes of the
construct.
world. I mean, look, human being is messy,
It
messy.
is.
Like, as I mean, when you really think about, and also when you think about the people, without getting into politics, running the country and all of those things, it's like usually that's I would suggest possibly trauma based. Actually,
Yeah,
got these messy human
yeah,
beings living out their idea of healing themselves in an
yeah.
unconscious way on the general
It's
public,
exactly what it
which
is.
is what it is, and the messes that causes on our
Yeah,
behalf
yeah, you're
is
right.
astonishing. And what I guess we see on the positive side with social media is the standing up, is
Yes.
is the collective ability to stand
Yeah.
up and go no.
But have you noticed when someone stands up, people come for them?
Oh, always.
That's the messiness again.
That's the
Here's
messiness.
someone trying to do the standing up and the fairness and the community, and there's someone else going, I don't like the way you do that.
But Brené Brown talks about it. If you're not in the arena, I'm not interested. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
if you're on the sidelines watching, get in the arena with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing you have to block out,
Yeah. You're right.
because you've interviewed a lot of different people and I've listened, and the more well known you get, the more you're going to get
Oh, yeah.
strangeness. I've had
Yeah.
strangeness the more my social media
Yeah.
grows.
Yeah.
Sometimes most people are great, but sometimes you get comments and you're like,
Oh, yeah. I've had it more so on TikTok than Instagram.
oh, TikTok's wild west of social
I
media.
I haven't got I haven't got a big TikTok. It has
No,
to be said.
no,
There's
either.
a reason for that
I'm
because it's
bothered. I'll
exactly
watch, but I don't get involved
no.
because it's so messy.
It's
I don't understand, but it's interesting the different energies of different platforms.
Instagram for me has been brilliant, and I get
Yeah,
very little negative sometimes, but very little toxic. TikTok is what I call it,
yeah.
because as soon as I put anything on there,
People are
wow,
wild.
I have to delete a lot of comments, because what I've noticed as well with TikTok, if you've got a few negative comments, it attracts other people who think they've
Does
got the
it?
right.
Oh,
So I just delete them, and then it stops the inpouring of
that's a really good
negative comments.
idea.
It
But it's
people
like putting your energy there is such a pain to have to do in the first
Yeah,
place.
I don't. I mean, I think the reason it doesn't grow is because I don't
You
yet
don't.
know how to manage the toxicity of it. Once I've got that,
I think it might
it
just end up being not looking at it, because I don't think you
yeah,
can avoid. I think what you need to probably face is the fact that TikTok is what it is,
yes.
and if you're going to go on it, you're going to have to let go of trying to manage all
No,
of that.
you're probably right there. Actually,
Just let
yeah,
go of managing it. Just leave the messages. Don't
yeah,
get involved in it.
yeah.
Like, just let the messages
Because
come
TikTok
through.
likes that. It likes you to have as much
Yeah, don't
interaction as
worry.
possible.
It's just, don't look at it. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah,
Like, it's when you think about the magic of being alive and what's possible for us, and the myriad of things you could get involved with, is someone sitting there on their phone
yeah.
making negative
It's a
comments.
strange thing,
It's,
like you say.
what's going on in their lives,
Yeah.
that
Well, they get
that's their
seen.
focus.
They get seen.
It's a way of getting sick.
It's the way of
Yes.
getting seen. I said this to Christina.
It's the lowest the common denominator,
Yeah,
though, because it's anything to get seen.
seen, yeah. But how much pain has someone got to be in that's
So
the
much
only
pain.
way they
There's
can
been
get
people that
seen?
have actually gone and messaged people back that have been rude, and they've ended up in really nice. I had one guy really rude to me once. I can't remember the details of it. It was just really shockingly horrible about my work, and I ended up just, I don't tend to, and it doesn't happen very often, but I ended up engaging with them and exploring it with them, and I did restrict their account
Yeah,
and all of that stuff, because I wanted to create that boundary, and also you
yeah,
can make it so that people can't see your stories if you want
that's
to
right.
as well, and they will never know. But what it came down to was that he was a failed artist, And that's
That's
why
where it came from, the pain.
and when you can really get that someone else's anger is nothing to do with you and it's their pain, the freedom it creates in you,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that you don't set a boundary.
No, you're right, but it is about freedom. That's what you said earlier.
Yeah.
Everything that you do is about letting people see their own freedom, find their own
Yeah.
freedom.
When you can really get as an experience, not as a nice idea, because as we said, nice ideas, we all know that, time doesn't really exist in the way we think it
Yeah.
does. Maybe we're all one consciousness experiencing ourselves subjectively, wonderful. But, if you can't experience these things, it means nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
mean a damn thing.
Yeah.
It's the experience, and that's doing the work.
And on that note, with all the work that's coming up for you, would you say that, and it's not really a matter of age, but would you say that at this point in your life, that middle point, if you like,
Yeah.
would you say that you are starting to feel more in touch with yourself, knowing that the work that you're doing is getting closer and closer to, I guess, more, it's connection again, isn't it? It's that you're creating more connection with the art, you're creating more connection with the coaching. Do you feel better about yourself being able to do that?
I feel more at home in myself than I've probably felt ever, and that is down to just continuously facing myself. Really, that's the answer, and there is no end. I'm going to have moments. What I find is, because I don't get the anxiety anymore, because of the layers I've gone through, if I get an inkling of anxiety, I could be in the middle of making a cup of tea,
Mm,
or changing the radio station, or writing some notes before I go to the studio,
mhm.
or dusting down the table, and I'll get this ping of anxiety. And what I'll do now is go, oh, that's like the iceberg, that's the top layer there.
Yeah,
Let's be with that experience a minute. I'll just stop what I'm doing. Suddenly I'll move into the sadness, which
yeah,
is underneath. And I detach the thought from the sadness now,
yeah.
and it just moves through me, and then it's
It's gone.
it's gone. And that's all there is to do, is move the energy through. But
Yes.
before, I wasn't connecting with the sadness that I was feeling, and I just had the anxiety, and that's all I had.
This is the parts, this is the IFS theory. For people that want to look into IFS theory, it's internal family systems. And everything you've just said is what drew me to internal family systems, because it's so much about that,
Yes.
noticing the parts, creating the characters actually so it's easier to understand them,
Yes, and create space for them.
create space for them, compassionate inquiry,
Compassionate
which is the whole
inquiry.
Gabor Mate thing as well. He
Yes,
uses
love.
that.
I mean, and it really is about compassionate inquiry,
Yeah,
and it's not easy, and it's not it's active.
it's active.
It's
Yeah.
You're not there, and don't mistake it for tolerating your
Yes.
experience.
Yeah. It is just like inquiry, exploration, curiosity, whatever you want to call it, but be compassionate with that,
Yeah,
and then you will unlock the
the
the the,
next.
the next level.
And then it leads down to and then eventually one might experience, if only briefly, the oneness of it all.
Yes.
The
And it
everything
will be
nothing.
brief moments.
Brief moments, but what you do is, it's a bit like a fish walking up on land. When you came
Yeah.
up on land, you slowly come up more and more on land. You've pulled the fish out of the water, you've shown it, so you can't not know. You can never unknow. Once
Yes,
you've
that's
taken
so
the
true.
glasses off, you can't
Yeah.
unknow.
Yeah.
You pick the pill in the matrix, you can't
Yeah.
unknow. And it's the job of just those peak experiences, which is wonderful, but then doing the daily work, so that it integrates into your life, and you're coming from somewhere else rather than from the story to the story.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you massively for being a part of my matrix today.
Thank
Where the
you.
reality that I've been living in.
It's been beautiful.
It's been such a beautiful, inspiring, motivational, colourful, gorgeous
Really.
experience.
I wonder if I make any sense when I'm speaking, so this is good
Well,
to
to me, you do.
is it do it on?
To me, everything you say just hits the spot. It just hits the spot. And I know that I said to you at the beginning of when we started to record, or just before, I was advised once to do short episodes because
This is a long one.
this is a long one, but they all are.
Yeah.
Because
They
I
are.
just don't feel that you can get the person, the
No.
story, the
In that
connection in a very short space. And it's not about getting short, sharp information and viewing figures for me. It's about connection.
It is.
It's a storytelling podcast.
Which is why I wanted to come on
Yeah.
this, because we're all shining our individual lights, and that's all we can do.
Yeah.
Is in the darkness shine our individual lights into the world, and the right people will find
It's
you.
paying it forward.
It's paying it forward.
Paying it forward.
I want to say really briefly, because I said I would. On the way here, I was in the taxi from London, and I was talking to this guy, and he was asking me what I was doing today, and I was telling him, and he ended up telling me a story about this woman who picked up, and she'd got him to drop her off at some Putney Bridge, whatever it was. She was going to jump off the bridge, and he got out the taxi and he went, look, if you're going to jump off the bridge, then you need to pay your £5.50 fare, right? And he did that to snap her out of it, because she was so shocked, she was so taken aback, right, that he had time to grab her. And so he grabbed her and he took her home. He spent 4 or 5 hours with her. He then rang her work the next day. He got her work details and he informed them what was going on. And that's what this is all about, in a way. We're all in this together. We're all walking each other home. Like, we are more similar. Like, there are fundamental differences in human beings, and culturally as well. You know, it's got to be respected.
Yeah.
But there is a fundamental experience of being human that we all share.
Yes.
And we're all in it together. And I wanted to share that story because it was so powerful. He saved that person's life. And this story came to me on the way here. So,
oh, wow.
You know, it fitted so well. And it just came up now to say, you know, and we're all in this together.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, Carly, I've never felt so much emotion finishing a podcast. I feel just overcome right now. It's just so, again, everything about you is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you to the taxi driver that told you that.
It's not even me. It's life coming through.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, life wanted that message to come out to people for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it's come through me today. It's not about me. We're you know, it's not about you. It's about being open and available, and life will come through.
And to finish, that's a really good closing point. There's a book, very simple book actually, based on, I think it's South American wisdom, and it's called The Four Agreements.
I've read that book.
So you know what I'm about to say. Nothing is ever personal, good or bad. And that's exactly what you've just said.
It might feel that way. And if it feels that way, don't make yourself wrong for feeling that way.
Correct.
Feel into the experience.
Feel into the experience and read the books.
Yeah, read the books. But the books will only get you so far. It might even make you feel separated more at some stage as part of the reading. And that's a sign when you start to feel that separation from reading beautiful books that should be bringing you forward.
Yeah.
To take the next step and do some work.
And actually, I always say a book's like a bus ticket. It's just part of the journey. You've got to do the rest. You've got to do the walking after the bus journey.
It's an indication. Like this conversation, it's directions.
It's directions. Yeah, you are right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today.
It's a pleasure.
It's a real privilege and a pleasure.
It's really hard to let in compliments, isn't it?
It is.
So much.
We're just complimenting each other. We'll not end because we'll be like, no, thank you. No, thank you. It'll be like the Chuckle Brothers. No, you. No, me. No, you. Thank you, honestly.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, wow.
Wow.